Bent Methods podcast. I'm Keelan. It's Jared. We got our buddy Chris working the computer and the sound mixer.
The IT magic guy over here.
Yeah. And today we got a good friend and local track hero, JC Seitz.
Ooh, I don't know what hero.
Well, I was asking Jared this. You're not the general manager of Fox. You're the or national sales manager.
Yeah, national sales director, I guess, is what is on the card. But yeah, we do have a country manager too, James Gibbs, who I work right alongside with. So yeah.
Cool. And you're also you're probably the top vet in Canada.
Oh,
now,
well, you won Walton, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, a couple years ago now. So Goldie took it from me this year, so I gotta give him the top vet.
One of the top vets.
Yeah, there you go.
And once a decorated local pro, as well as you were the manager of CycleWorks Foothills, and then previously to that, I guess, would you say part owner in Seitz, your own motorcycle shop with your family?
Yeah, family owned. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got your hands in a lot of areas of the motorcycle industry.
Yeah, you could say that. I guess it's been a few years.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, and I know we've been trying to get you lined up for a while now.
I think he was going to be our first guest almost, wasn't he, last year?
Yeah,
something like that.
I think it was close to number one. Yeah, I had to. Yeah. Get
Bailed
a couple
on us.
people in front of me first. I wasn't
Yeah,
important enough to be number one.
This thing could be a total disaster. I got to see a couple test runs
Yeah,
first.
right.
So we were kind of talking like a bit before we were both doing the Chilliwack series, which is pretty good. I thought it was a great turnout. How'd that go for you guys? Like, decks seemed to be ripping pretty good. You guys enjoy that?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I thought. Future West is doing a great job. I know it's not the same without spectators, but you kind of forget about it when you're racing, right? I mean, you're racing too. It's like, you want the fans there, and you think that everybody's watching, but then when you're there and the gate drops, you're there to race, right? You're not there for the fans. So, that was a little bit different, but I actually quite like how they ran the format. I didn't mind pitting outside the couple days there. We got some rain. It was a little bit chilly. Might have been nice to be inside, but I also went back to the hotel and restaurant, not reeking like fumes and a big headache and sick when you get home.
There, hey?
Oh yeah, and you're always guaranteed to be sick on the Monday, right? I mean, we're on the Wednesday now, and I feel 100% fine. So it's kind of nice getting out of the fumes. So all in all, I actually liked a lot of things better. I like being outside. I like the racing during the day and being done early.
Yeah, for sure.
That was nice. Usually arena cross, you're there all day, and then you got a couple hours to go get a bite to eat, and you're back at night, and you're there all night, and then back again there in the morning. So I quite enjoyed it. How about yourself? You were there?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great turnout. I was a little skeptical with how it was going to go, just with the weird year and whatnot, but judging by the turnout, people were pretty eager to race, and I was pretty happy to see that. I don't know what the actual entry count was for that race.
I know the first weekend, I'll be off maybe a couple, but it's close to 300. I think it was like 290 something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I meant to ask what last weekend was. I think it'd be pretty close, maybe down a couple, but I think it was in the, I bet you in that 270-ish too, again, 280.
See, and that's the thing is, like, I don't really know what their typical turnout was, but from what I could see, like, they're almost over half the classes had heat races that were full gates, and I thought it was good. I was a little disappointed with the pro turnout.
Yeah.
I thought that could have been a little better, knowing that there was quite a few pros in the western area that could have come and done that, but other than that, I was pretty excited to see just people lining up for the races.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the turnout was, I know the first weekend was bigger than they normally get. And you can tell by just because my son's in the kids' classes, so I pay attention to that. But I agree with you. The pros, it was pretty disappointing, the turnout. I don't even think you guys even needed to run qualifiers, which is sad. So it would be nice to see the pros line up and more come out, just because that's what entertains us. But what I loved about it and being in the industry and being a an industry person is watching those kids classes with qualifiers. Like I took a picture of it. I looked at the chart, and both 50 classes, 65 classes, 85 classes, super mini classes all had 2 qualifiers in each class. So um, that's makes the sport healthy. And it's good to see those younger kids coming up because we need that. If they're not running qualifiers, then it's scary.
Yeah, for sure. So like being an industry guy and your eye is always on what's moving and what's going on. Was there anybody there that like kind of stood out to you as far as riders go? Like
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed with Blake Davies.
Yeah.
I actually never even heard of the kid until I think it was Walton. It was the first time I had seen him. I'm sure you guys probably know him just being 85 riders, but yeah, that kid really impressed me. I don't know about you, about other riders, but
Yeah, we talked about it on the way home. Yeah, no, Blake's always impressive. He's been fast, ever since 50s. Dexter's always, they've Blake seems to be a little bit ahead of him on the moving up in
okay,
classes.
yeah, they're the same age.
Same
right?
age, yeah.
Okay,
Just Blake's 2 feet taller than
Yeah.
him. And they're good buddies on and off the track. They love racing each other and they love hanging out too. So
Yeah.
Blake's a good kid. But yeah, he's just always been that little bit a class above Dexter just because of his size.
Yeah.
So they always meet, it seems like, for a year or so, and then Blake's on to bigger bikes or whatever. But he's always been fast. Like little Braxton Zeitner, he's going
Yeah,
good.
he's
He's impressive. Parker Hatt, from home here.
Yeah.
He did good in the 50 class. You can see the kids that kind of, that are top of their class or whatever, and either winning or they're always right there winning, right? And then there's a couple kids that impressed me that, again, they're always fast, but they just kind of stood out a little bit more this last couple of weeks than I have noticed before. And one is Tyson Dubeck. He's from BC. He's number 15 or whatever.
Yeah. That kid was like almost pulling starts on me in that
Yeah.
30 class.
Yeah, and you know what? And he
145.
wasn't too far off you pros, like
Yeah.
right there. I think he was about 3rd or 4th in the under 30, and
Mhm.
the only people ahead of him were the pros, and he wasn't. He was holding pace, and I thought he was impressive.
Yeah.
Charles Charlton, I thought he rode really good.
Yeah.
Another guy that just kind of stood out. I seen him up at the top of the classes or whatever, and
Yeah,
there's
he's
few
coming a
kids.
long way too. I thought I was actually pretty stoked to see I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, but Zach Eufemsen.
Oh, Zach. Yeah,
He got like his first pro podium. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I
And
should-
He rode
I-
really well too.
definitely. I should. Give him credit. He's super close to us. A good friend of our family. He's come and stayed some summers at our house and stuff. And to watch him, we've been kind of watching him grow since 85s.
Yeah.
And then super minis. He's always been, again, a fast rider. But to see him get 3rd in the pro class with intermediate plates was, we were stoked for him. It was cool to watch.
Well, I think in that race was it Casey won, then Julian Bennick, and then I think it was Zach.
Yeah.
And I think Zach was like holding Julian's pace.
Yeah,
Yep.
it seemed like, they pulled a great start. I think Zach maybe 2nd or top 3 for sure, and he kind of held on to Casey, and Julian I think got buried a bit.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really notice where Julian started, but what I did notice was Casey and Zach had a pretty big lead on everybody. Like when I seen Zach at 2nd, I'm like, I was pumped, and then when I was looking to see how far back 3rd was, I was like, holy, like he's like this is like, as long as he keeps a solid moto here, he's going to be good. And then Julian was hammering down some fast laps like Julian does, and eventually caught him, I think, about 3/4 away in and passed Zach. But then he cruised in for 3rd place and like comfortably. Like he showed he could hold the pace there in the top 3. It was good.
Yeah, he looked really good, and it seemed like he kind of rode like himself too. Like he didn't look tight. He actually looked fairly relaxed and with like some areas of the track where it was necessary to charge, he was charging, and then also a little more relaxed in other areas. So I thought he was solid.
Yeah, he was, and you know what? He's been. I think he's won every intermediate moto or close to, maybe a couple that he hasn't won, but he's definitely showing that he's he's dominating the intermediate class right now too. So, and it's cool to see because we follow Zach and stuff. He's not had a rough year, but I think he could have done better in Walton than what he showed. And he's kind of gone through some, like every rider, some confidence issues, and just because we know him. And he came to Calgary there for this Super Saturdays, and I think it kind of turned his, I watched him like from the first round of the Super Saturdays to the last round, and then battling with Taryn Gerber and those guys, and they're fast pros too, right? And
Yeah.
and I think it built Zach's confidence, and then when he went into the indoors, it showed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's great that they're able to get that series running and make it work, especially with how bad the restrictions are getting, and yeah, just hopefully stuff doesn't start shutting down. So hopefully they can finish out the series strong there, and yeah, and it can roll into another year of racing. So, but I kind of wanted to, or we kind of prepared, or I at least prepared some questions before this, but because I know it's something that I don't really know, but I was hoping that you can maybe share some insight or a backstory on how you got into racing and where it all kind of started for you.
Man, it's well, I grew up on the farm. I mean, not far from where you live. And just I always had a bike. Just my older brothers had bikes, and so we always had bikes on the farm. And I was never a horse person, so I always rode the dirt bike around. And how it really started was I used to jump the driveways of my neighbors' ditches. You know what I mean? So I'd use the driveway approaches
I
as
used to do
big
that too,
tabletops,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, you grew up by me too. And those were like our supercross tracks were driveways. But I was just riding one day, jumping the driveways down the road, and a friend of mine that lives a couple of roads over, he raced dirt bikes or whatever, and he had an older gentleman named Zach that used to always pick him up and take him to the track. And he saw me jumping down the road, and he asked, who is that kid or whatever? And he's like, oh, it's JC. I go to school with him or whatever. So he came and grabbed me, stopped me. He's like, hey, have you ever been to the track? And I'm like, there's a track? Like, I didn't, and that was Wild Rose back then, not how it is now, but it's always there. And he's like, where do you live? So I showed him, and of all things, he drove up to my house and rang the doorbell, talked to my mom, and said, hey, I'm taking Shay into the track. I can take JC in and show him what it's all about. And my mom's like, yeah, sure, take him. Like, what mom would do that this day and age, right?
Never
A
happened
complete
now.
stranger that, and he took me in, and I rode the track, and there's a race like the next weekend. It was actually back then we used to have arena crosses like in the Edmonton Coliseum and the Calgary Saddle Dome, and they were big back then. And he's like, you got to try this or whatever. And so he talked my dad into somehow going to arena cross. That's how I started. And of all things, my first arena cross as a beginner, I pulled my bike in. I was parked beside Bart Stevenson, who is his first race pro. Was like my first race. I was older when I started racing. I think I was 15 or whatever. And maybe 14. And so me and him became best friends our whole lives. And that's kind of where it all started. Just kept snowballing from there.
And Wild Rose was where it was at today.
It is where but it wasn't nothing like it. They never had races back then there, and it's complete different. We used to groom it once a year. I mean, it was awesome because Dustin Heikkinen, our president still, he used to give us the phone call or whatever and say, yeah, it's getting groomed that day. And that was like the once a year that you wanted to be there because it was like, and, but besides that, a tractor never hit it or a water truck or, that's just how we grew up. Right. So,
Look where it's at now.
Yeah. I tell these kids all the time, like, you can never complain about the track, especially now. I mean, they're doing such a awesome job there, but any track you go to now, you can't complain. It's not,
it's so easy to get into that expectation of having a perfectly prepped track every day and stuff, but it doesn't develop any skills really. I mean, you get really good at holding it wide open, but I don't think you're developing that hard pack throttle control or that square edge chop. I mean, track's too good every day.
They get spoiled to it, right? I even got to give my son trouble all the time because he'll pull up and might not be as good as it was the day before, and he's like, oh, it's not that good or whatever. And I force him. I'm that dad that. But then when he rides, comes back. He's like, oh yeah, actually, it's not too bad. Like,
you get into it.
It's like anything. You get into it, you can make it work. You got to have a positive attitude.
Rhythm, and you start to enjoy it. I mean, I've had some great days at the track there where it's completely blue grooved, dusty as can be. Like July 30th, hadn't been prepped all week. one of the funnest days out there. You know,
Yeah.
it just track was no good, but you got to learn to ride that stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
as
some of the
well.
funnest days I find are just the days you go to a track without expectations. Like you go to Brooks or something where you know it's not going to be that great, so you go there with like kind of a low bar set, and then once you get there and start getting into your flow, it's actually like one of the funnest days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agree.
I try and get into that like MXGP mentality where I watch all the videos of them practicing and it just looks like shit. And you're just, I don't know. I'm like, I got to man up and just ride whatever I got to ride.
Well, at the end of a national day, like even 30 minutes into the moto, the track is way drier than it was at the start. It's going to be blue groove. Like you got to learn to
I
to
totally
handle
agree.
like a whole variety of track conditions, even in a moto sometimes.
Definitely.
Yeah, and especially for the pros. I watched a few of the nationals that I was at this year and that I go to every year. But yeah, it's like, be ready for a mud race because that's how practice is going to be, and then be ready for it to be dusty at the end of the day because that's.
Well, even like they usually like, especially in Calgary, because it gets so hard, they'll really grease it up for the first couple laps just to keep the dust down. And then by the end of the moto, it's like nice and tacky again. So you got to learn how to ride that like really slippery, like sketchy stuff, and then transition into riding like a good track.
Yeah.
And we have such a wide variety of terrain too, like throughout Canada.
Yeah.
Like not so much the States where every track is prepped the same and it's a foot deep in loam and topsoil, whereas Canada, like we got shale at Moncton and then sand, like bottomless sand at Gopher, and then good clay at Regina and Calgary, and it's different every round, and you can't just get accustomed to one style of prep.
No, Canada's definitely. I always call it a skinnier version of the GPs because you watch the GPs in the States or in Europe, and I it's shocking to see like they're on like literally hard packed cement tracks. Like I've never like we think we have hard packed till you watch one of them, and then the next weekend they're in
Lommel and it's just
like
deep sand.
Like it's amazing to watch how these riders can go back and forth. And someone like Geitzer, who I think is sand, I think he always had troubles with, and now he learned sand. He's just dominated the last 2 weekends, and that's why he's a world champ, right? You can ride anywhere. But I find Canada's the same way. Just our tracks are about a lot narrower, but same thing. We gotta, but it's tough. I watch the Americans that come up to Canada and race, and a lot of them come up here and just think they're gonna, like wax us because you watch it, but anybody who knows, like our tracks are so different. It takes them a year. It takes them maybe a year or two to get into it. And then when they do, like the Gorkys and Nicolettis and those guys, they get a year under their belt. We get the odd one who comes up, like Millsap, who came up and dominated pretty good. But I mean, he's a top 5 guy in the U.S.
He
too,
was
right?
Exceptional talent all throughout his career, right? Like he may not have the titles to back it up, but that guy can ride a bike.
Yeah.
Like amateur-wise, he was the prospect, right?
Yeah.
So not surprising he came up here and did what he did.
Yeah.
I also think he did put in a fair amount of work, like getting ready to come up here too. I don't think he took the summer or the off season off and just thought he was going to win. I think he was riding a fair amount.
I think they know that now. I think they know they can't just show up and do what they think they're going to do. But I remember like Nanaimo, I think it was the first year Metcalf came. Metcalf, like, Fasciotti waxed him by like 30 seconds each moto.
Yeah.
And Nanaimo's kind of an oddball one in its own, but
yeah, no, it takes him. And then I think what was it? I think it took Metcalf year 3 before he won, or at least year 2.
Yeah,
year 2 or
probably
3.
year 2.
Yeah, but no, it does. It's
like you got to even think suspension setting wise. Like the tracks here are quite a bit slower than down south, so you got to adjust your suspension completely different for a slower track with different types of bumps building on it and stuff. So, I mean, I think it takes a guy a season to figure out, okay, Nanaimo, totally different setup than Calgary even.
Yeah. And then you think you have it figured out, then you go to Gopher and you're like, whoa, this is totally different again. Like,
Yeah. Well, I heard of some teams this year were running 2 separate settings. Like we ran 3 different tracks, but they would run a totally different setting for Gopher as they would for Walton and Sandalee. And probably the top teams down south do that, but
not in Canada usually.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of the top pros down south would do that, other than some of the factory teams that have those resources.
Yeah, Yeah, and the 450s we're talking 450 guys too, and it's a lot of talent that comes up, like the Purcells, the Millsaps, the Nicolettis, like. But it's I think what even is a bigger shock is when you watch the 250 guys. You know what I mean? Like these young 250 guys that are fast in the States that
Yeah.
don't quite get a ride, and they come to Canada here and be like, okay, like I'm coming to do good and prove myself, and they're
Yeah. It's
fifth
not
to 10th
easy.
to 15th. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
when you got Jess on all rails,
Mm.
flying this year, like
Yeah.
pretty untouchable. Doesn't matter who you bring up here unless
yeah,
it's
really.
unless
It'd
it's
be interesting to see, like, I don't know, one of like an RJ Hampshire or something come up and to see how he'd stack up against Pettis when he's like in Canada on his like own turf and he's
Oh, yeah.
riding as well as
A
he is.
factory guy,
Yeah.
Come.
Yeah.
One guy that's kind of like a perfect example of these guys that are like come up and don't really, I guess, live up to the expectations. And I shouldn't say that he didn't live up to the expectations. I think this guy had like some rough luck, but like Richard Taylor, I don't know if people expected more out of him. I didn't know what to expect.
I had never
didn't
even seen him race
I
before,
didn't
so I
really
don't
know
know.
who he was. But he didn't really have any success in Canada, and didn't really have like great qualifiers or outstanding motos. And
Nothing that really jumped off the page.
yeah, and he had quite a few DNFs just from mechanicals. But then he went down, and I can't remember which rounds he raced.
He raced like the last. He raced from Iron Man on. No, not Iron Man.
Or was he at WW?
He was at WWN, Colorado, and Pala. But I think he
But-
started what was the one before that? Millville. He started at Millville.
Oh yeah, maybe it was Millville.
he
Yeah,
was like
went
top
on-
20.
Yeah, went on to
Yeah.
a 450 and scored points. And the weekend before, he was like, I don't even.
He's
think
like
he
16th, 17th in Canada.
barely qualified top 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a different world when they come up here for sure. But
Also helped that we had 4 mud races this year.
Yeah, it didn't
Oh.
really.
Sure, that didn't play into his favor with the DNFs or anybody's favor.
yeah. Well, on a side note, to these guys that come out, like the biggest surprise to me that came up and like exceeded expectations was Epstein when he came
Oh,
up
yeah.
in what was it, 16 and 17?
Yeah,
Yeah.
showed crazy speed.
Yeah, he was like,
It was-
well, 16 he was nuts, and 17 I think he just wasn't really gelling with the team.
Well, he
but-
won the first race right off. It wasn't he won Prince George? Was that race round 1 or round 2?
It was
I think
like
it's round one.
or something.
I think it was
thought
round one that year.
He won a
um,
moto at Calgary, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Kamloops or something he won too, didn't he? Or he won
I
at
don't think
least
we
the
were going to
first-
Kamloops when he came.
No,
Yeah,
I think it went to
Calgary PG.
I think it was PG.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
meant, actually I know
Calgary
it. I
PG.
know it was PG because I don't want to get the story wrong, but somehow he showed up to the line. He didn't have his numbers on, like a name and number.
Oh yeah.
And back then, I think it was CMRC, right? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't race without your name and number. And I forget what number would he have been?
108.
108.
108, because that's
Yeah.
it was a Beats number or something, right? So he went and grabbed his number plate out of the truck or something. I
Yeah.
forget exactly how it went, and ended up
Sticking
like
it on
sticking
the
it to the
drag,
back of the
yeah.
jersey. So
Yeah, I remember that.
and then he was riding shift at the time, so Jason, I think it was Jason, whatever, made his name and number for the back of his jersey and made it a number plate
Oh,
for the
yeah.
next round to make it like yeah. So, but no, Dylan came up and we actually were lucky enough when he was in Calgary, he needed a place to ride, so we took him out to a friend's track, and it was just us, like myself, Dexter, and him, and the track it rained that night, and the dirt was perfect, and man, that guy made ruts like by himself that were like 6 feet deep, and he was just I got videos of it because I was just
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how fast he was on this track, and we ride it all the time, and I see people ride it all the time, but he blew that track apart how fast he
Yeah.
was. Yeah, it was cool to watch.
Yeah, he was impressive when he came up, and then the one round where he was really impressive, where like I don't think anybody should have stood out other than maybe Tyler Medaglia because it's home track, but at Truro, I think he went 1-1 there, and it's like a pretty basic track, and nothing too special about it. Like it's almost a highway, and he was on another level there. I think he went 1-1. I
Was that
can't-
his year on OTSF?
No, he was Cowie.
That was the Cowie team, yeah.
Yeah, and he was just like, there's nothing. This is like a backyard track, like Mitch Cook's house.
Yeah.
Like backyard, something that he could have made with like a lawn tractor. and he was on another level. But
Crazy.
yeah, he was one of the guys that was kind of like he was impressive his first year around. Like,
Yeah, but there's a story to that too, because he was fast growing up. Like he was a Loretta's.
Oh yeah, I remember him
Yeah.
as an
Team
amateur.
Green.
Yeah. he
Yeah,
was
Team
good.
Green. Like him and I think he was maybe year or two under Dean. You know, like
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
I
think they
remember
were
he tried out for a PC. I
But-
think the year before he came up.
Yeah.
yeah, and then he got hurt real bad.
Yeah.
Like internal damage. Like I'm not sure exactly what it is, but he had to go through some surgeries, and I think he took a year or two off, and then when he came back, that's when he came up to Canada. So he was never he was always fast. He just
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah.
just
just
rode that
underrated.
injury train for a while, and then when he came to Canada, he was firing on all cylinders. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, how many brothers? You said you grew up with a bunch of brothers starting to ride in the backyard and stuff. How many brothers did you have?
I've got two brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, two older brothers and then a sister too. But
Okay.
my brothers were they're older than me. I was kind of the accident of the family that that was
Just like
little-
you.
Yeah.
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 a little bit. I don't think they'll ever admit to it, but yeah, I was younger than the rest of my siblings. But yeah, my older brothers always had bikes, and my oldest, his name was Lyle, but he built a track in our yard, and I remember as always a kid watching them ride the tracks, and I was too young back then, but I had a little, I don't know what, a little 50 or whatever I used to ride around on, but and then he went on with hockey and was a referee in NHL for years
Right,
and stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he put the bikes away. But then when
So-
I grew up, he actually was one of the ones that, him and my dad supported me, financially, like helping me with bikes and stuff. So he's got a lot to do with helping me through my career too. So
Yeah. So how'd your brother end up so tall and you got the short end of the stick?
yeah, I
on
don't
that
know.
one?
Accident, right? Mailman.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I forgot he was a ref there for a
He-
while. I remember seeing him be like, "That's JC's brother? What?"
Yeah, it's he's like 6'4" and
Yeah.
but yeah, and it's funny because when friends meet my brother, we look and talk and we're identical. Just he's a bigger version or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's cool.
we are brothers.
Did you have to ride like many of his hand-me-down bikes or gear or anything?
No, I was too young. Like
Too
I'm what am I? I think I'm 10 or 11 years younger.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So his bikes are always
Yeah.
they were gone before I.
Uh,
Actually, I think my 50 was a hand-me-down, maybe like the first bike we had at the house. But yeah,
That's cool.
Did he used to own the professional skate in the Strathmore hockey rink?
yeah,
That's what I thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember seeing the name and like not sure if it was related or not.
yeah. No, we had part of they had 4 locations, 4 or maybe even 5 locations back then, and then they started up the sharpening store there in Strathmore. Yeah, one of our many adventures.
So your brother had the skate sharpening side of things, and then you had the motocross side of things. Like you were a business owner, owned your own dealership. What kind of got you into owning the dealership side of things
Well,
after you were done racing?
Well, it
Or were
again
you
back.
still racing when you started? I
Yeah,
don't
still
know.
racing. Yeah, I was just whatever. To make a long story short, I was working at Blackfoot actually, and then my wife went to back then girlfriend, but she had to go to school in BC, so I went out with her and worked for Fox back then. It used to be Aurora Cycle, and worked for them while my girlfriend at the time, wife now, went to school. And then when we came back, I kind of pitched the idea to my brother. I said, you know what, I think I want to start up a dealership or whatever. And we talked about it lots, and we knew where we wanted to be out in that Okotoks area, which is South Calgary, and nothing was out there. And so we, again, my brother and my dad was retired at the time. So they helped me financially, and we started it up. And
So you didn't take any like business schooling or anything. You just
no,
off
no,
the gut, let's do it.
I just hands in and just
Worked
went
well.
with it, right?
Yeah.
So I been in a bike dealership, basically my whole life. I worked for Rod Matichuk, Cody's dad, and back when I was, I think, 14 or 15 when I started racing, because I grew up working on the farm all the time, and when I started racing, I asked him, I said, can I get a job? Any kid who goes up out in the acreage or whatever wants, farm life's good, but you want to try to get a real job somewhere, right? But yeah, so we he hired me as like a lot kid. I changing tires and building bikes, and
Yeah.
then kind of worked my way into working in the front and doing parts, and I worked for them for quite a few years, and then then went to Blackfoot. So I've kind of always worked my way up in the industry, but
Yeah.
no, I've never, don't have any real crazy special schooling or,
No.
go to business or anything like that. Just kind of work my way in.
Well, I think that just shows people that you don't have to have a degree or something to be successful at what you're doing. You just have to care about it.
You got, yeah, that's what's got me where I'm at. Just 100% passion. I love this industry. I love what I do. I'm lucky enough that, at Fox, I've got a lot of good staff that work for me that are smart, that I can lean on. So especially now, everything's all computer and everything's all, just the way Excel spreadsheets I live by. And these kids that come out of university, they go through it like it's, I'm still the one finger guy trying to get through it. A little better than that, but still. But so I got to lean on my staff who are smart at that stuff. And that's where my decisions come, as I know what's happening in the industry. I've got passionate. I live it and breathe it.
Yeah.
And I translate it to my staff who help me out. That they're really the brains behind it for sure.
Well, I think any successful business owner will tell you, like, it comes down to the staff at the end of the day. You got to have the right team behind you. And it's just like any racer trying to go for a championship. You got to have the right team behind you to be able to do it. Yeah, maybe the guy on the bike has the whole say in how fast he goes and all that. Just like the business owner has the say in where the profits come from, what you're going to sell or something like that. But definitely your staff and team are a huge part of anybody's success. And,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So when you had Seitz go, because you had Seitz go, then turned to CycleWorks.
Yep.
Get into that a little bit. But when you had Seitz go, what was kind of your favorite part about being the owner or manager, whatever you want to call yourself at that time?
It's all fun. Probably the biggest thing in the retail is just interacting with the customers. They become your friends, right? That's probably number one. It's you come close to especially your good customers that are in there, daily.
Yeah.
Like I say, they become friends more than customers. So the interaction's cool. Just there's lots, at the end of a day when it's crazy busy and, you've ran your feet off and you look at the numbers and, you look at what you sold, and it's like winning a race sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it's, you have your good days and bad days, and when the good days are good, they're really good, right? But then the staff too, you know what I mean? They become like family to you, especially with us. Like Seitz go, it was a smaller dealership. I think we had about, probably 8 or 9 of us that worked, at one time. So become family, right? And a lot of them still are working in dealers around Calgary right now. It's awesome. I go into a dealership in Calgary all the time, and at least one of my staff are in each store, which is pretty cool because, quite a few years ago now, right? So, but there's lots of good things about it.
Yeah, it's always nice to go into a dealership and it's like a smaller dealership. It just feels like more of a community.
Yeah, no, it's it is. I now, with my work now, I travel, across Canada and even the U.S. I stop in dealers everywhere I go. I stop at dealers. Just even if I'm driving through the U.S. and it's not for work, I'll still, if I see a dealer, I pull in. I just love to, you get ideas, you get to see what's happening. But you can see the different dealers as you walk, as you visit them. Who's like you got big players, you got small players, and then you got people that are passionate and whatever it is, ATVs or and then you got the moto shops, and you can see whatever the owner or the GM or whatever at the time is into it. It seems like it kind of funnels down.
Yeah.
So for us, it was always motocross for me. So we were always a hardcore moto shop, right?
Yeah.
And was always known for that. So yeah.
So what kind of made you transition from having that independent dealership to, was CycleWorks a franchise?
Yeah.
Deal?
So CycleWorks, they had at that time 3 locations in Alberta, and they wanted to be in the south end of Calgary, like in where we were, and just over a couple of years, they approached us a few times of wanting to, they were interested in our dealership. One to have that area, I guess, locked up would be one thing, and 2, they could get the Yamaha. They're a big Polaris dealer, and they could have Yamaha too, and so yeah, they approached us a few times, and yeah, it just worked out. It was they wanted me to be a part of it as we did the transition. So, and my dad, like, he put money into it. He was retired at the time, and he kind of put money just to kind of get us going, and same with my brother, who's, like I say, he's over in Europe with hockey now, and for them it was just more of a, I don't know, like, kind of, they did it for me, I guess, and almost like a hobby to them, and it's an opportunity for them to get their money out and make a bit, and it would have been crazy if we didn't, just because it would have been selfish for me to keep going, and the way it all worked out too, CycleWorks was great with me. They like I said, they brought me on board. It's not like they just bought and canned me or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I worked for them and was a GM, and it was part of the ownership share there too, and for I think 5 or 6 years, and so it was good.
Did it lose any of that kind of family, or like you said, your customers became your friends? Did it lose any of that feel when it turned more
No,
franchise
'cause
and independent?
we still, they let me do, like, kind of what they, not free reins or anything like that. We definitely worked as a group, and they still do. But each GM kind of ran their store how they like. So it's not like they, it's not like they changed anything. So no, it's all good that way. And having a family with business, it's got your ups and downs, right? Like I say, when the days are good, the days are good. When they're bad, right? And when you're fighting with your dad because he's looking at the financials and things aren't happening, and you go home, the last thing you get home and it's like, man, I just fought with my dad. Like, it's not worth it. Honestly, it's not. And so when we made the switch, it was kind of nice to almost get away from the family, because when you go home and things aren't good or things are whatever, like, and you're fighting with somebody, it's a different owner and you have your battles, but you get over it and it's good, right?
Yeah,
like,
you kind of leave your work at work in a sense.
Yeah.
It never truly leaves you alone, but you don't have to bring it home and fight with your family at home over dinner about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's but it also made our family super tight too. So it's like I say, it's good and bad no matter what you do. But no, it never really lost the feeling. It actually, when I went to CycleWorks, because like any dealership or business you own, you want to grow, right? You want to get bigger and better. And to do that, it takes money. You know what I mean? It doesn't just, like, it's a risk. And what CycleWorks wanted to do, like, from Seitz, like, I always wanted Seitz to do that, but it was hard to put that kind of money in to invest. Where CycleWorks, being a group and had the power and had the, already the franchise, like Polaris and stuff like that, it was easy for them to step in. So everything I wanted to do with our dealership, that's what CycleWorks' vision was. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do it too, because then we could bring in, like, KTM. We had Polaris. Like, we made it a multi-line dealer and a pretty big dealer, right? So it was cool to do.
What was the time frame of that changeover? Was that like the 2010? When I can't remember when that exactly happened.
It would have been. Yeah, it would have been around 2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
Okay. So it was definitely economic times happening as well.
Yeah, things were good, and
so
I always got to compare my what I'm doing in life with what bike I owned that year. So I'm trying to think. Trying to think of what year of bike I was riding that year.
Yeah, I judge it by what. Did I do the whole series that year? Or did I just do the West? Did I not race that year?
Yeah.
That's funny. It's I was also I kind of wanted to add to that, like, how when you're at Seitz and then move to CycleWorks, and how you're saying it was such a family, and how invested you were in your customers, and how they become your friends. And I at least for me, I feel like that really reflected my experience, like, shopping at your stores and stuff, and being sponsored by the stores at the time, and then when you had left to go to Fox, how much that changed the atmosphere at least at CycleWorks, and I feel like that really hindered their performance within at least the Calgary market.
No, I don't.
Maybe that's just my perception.
Yeah. No. It was. I don't know. I don't want to say, like, I just had a different passion, right? Which it takes a unique individual to have a passion like we do for motocross. You know what I mean? Where most of the owners and GMs across the country and bike dealers are like, they could be into anything, like I say. And honestly, when it
another
comes
job,
down to it,
basically.
yeah, like the motocross end of a dealership, like the dirt bikes, is the least amount of money in the dealership. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you're a smart business person and like the dirt bikes isn't where the money's at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Especially when you get us three walking in there asking for discounts.
yeah, right.
here.
Yeah, everybody wants a deal, right? So like if you talk to, depends, who you talk to. Of course, that's my passion. So that's, and when I left CycleWorks, it just it was a different atmosphere in there, right? And
Mhm.
and any dirt biker I talk to is like, man, we miss you. Like we just miss going in, and we miss the just like I say, if we needed something for a dirt bike, we'd get it going for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we had to take it off, if I was
Yeah.
going to the races on Saturday and someone didn't have a bike, I mean, you guys have seen how many times people
Oh, yeah.
ride
Yeah.
my bike.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Oh,
that's just how I live, because it was like I'd be sad if I couldn't race that weekend. So I
Mhm.
wanted that person, whoever it was, if I had to lend them a bike or take a part off. Where 99% of the owners that are smart owners, they wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? It costs them money. So I look at it from both ways. You know what I mean? I probably cost the dealership a lot of money too, doing stuff like that. But it all turns around. It builds customers, it builds the clientele. So
Oh yeah. Well, I'd even speak from personal experience. Like we had a really good relationship with the dealership in town. Waltelia was right across the street from us. Like I could walk there, pick up parts, walk back. And then we started coming out to CycleWorks. I bought the first bike off you there and parts and everything. And yeah, I would make that extra. It was probably well over an hour drive
Yeah.
from home to that shop, but it was worth going there while you were there at least.
no, and that's so cool to hear that, because and I always thought of that too. Like it's amazing how many customers, like really good customers, like in racers and stuff, that are still racing, that were from Airdrie.
Mhm.
Like that's opposite end of the city. I mean, it's like you
It's
say, an
far.
hour and probably 20-minute drive,
Yeah.
and they were in there twice a week, 3 times a week, and they were super loyal to us.
Yeah.
And not to pat myself on the back, but it was my staff too, right? It was, we had I mean, you guys all know who
Yep.
my staff were in there, right?
Yep.
They were all awesome, and so it was a destination. Like it when people came in, like we had the music going, we had the coffee going. Depends if you're a farmer that needed a coffee, or if you're a young motocrosser who wanted to listen to music when you came in. We had it for everybody, right? And we made it a destination, which was cool.
It goes a long ways too, like being when you see these dealerships and the people running them, and it goes a long way when those people at those stores are invested in each area of those things that they're selling and each market that they're involved in. Like a good example is, for me at least, because I'm dealing with him now, is Dean Thompson at Blackfoot Direct. Is because I'm in there a lot and I see him every single day, and the one thing I really notice is how invested he is in everything that he sells, and he has an understanding of everything he sells. And then he also shows an investment in his customers. Like it seems like he has a personal relationship with every single customer, and has at least knows one personal thing about that person. Like they'll walk in and he'll ask like, "Hey, how's your dog doing?" Or how's your dog Joey doing? Or like, how's the gout in your wife's foot? Like he.
I hope he's not asking that.
But that's what I notice is like, because I'll sit with him in his office, and
I better have a talk with Dean if he's asking questions like that. No, you know what, Dean's I mean, he's been around for forever too, and he's awesome. You know what I mean? Like he's got passion too.
Yeah.
I've always, we've been when I had the dealership, I could say he was probably, like, for what I did in business, he was probably my biggest competitor, because it was dirt bikes that we love to do. It's dirt bikes that he loves to do. You know what I mean? So in Calgary, he was probably my biggest competitor, as in, like, because he's got great customer care too. You know what I mean? Just like you say. But we've always got along. I've never had an argument ever with Dean with anything. We've always worked together if he needed something, or vice versa.
Yeah. And
still today, I talk to him all the time, and he's always asking, Dexter, how everything is, and like he's just a very caring person, and it goes a long ways. You can see it in his dealership. Again, it's kind of like what Seitz was, a small dealership, a single line dealer with Husky, and he's doing it well. He's got a pretty cool little boutique store there, and he's got a lot
atmosphere.
of and he's got a lot of support too, like kind of like I had with CycleWorks. Like the owners over at Blackfoot next door, they're you know what that dealership's all about. They've been around forever, and they're smart guys. Like when they talk, you listen, because they've been there, they've done it, they've been through the good and the bad. And I was actually lucky enough that I was in there the other day and ran into Jason Mitchell, and we sat and talked for probably a good hour and a half. The store was closed. Like everybody, all the staff was leaving, and lights were shutting off, and we're still talking. And like I say, when he talks, it's fun to listen, because he's been through it all. He's ran race teams. It's won how many championships. And so they got some heritage there for sure.
Well, yeah. How long ago did that team kind of fold up? And I mean, maybe it's still because I'm still a kid in my brain, but I still look at Blackfoot race team as like the staple Canadian motocross team. Like, even 10 years after they closed down.
No, talking with Jason the other day, it was like I know, because I followed it all. We've all followed it, but you almost forget how many names he had. Like when I think of Blackfoot, I think of the Coltons and the Dusty Klatt, and even
Bart Stevenson.
Yeah, well, even Bart. But you think of all those, but the guys that have won multiple championships, Blair Morgan. Yeah, you know what I mean. JSR. Yeah, those four for sure. Like that's the team, right?
Yeah.
But then you start like listening to Jason tell stories, and you forget that like Mike Craig and Decker, and like you could there's man, like Hamlin, like you could go on and on and on.
It's like
forget about
everybody.
All those guys
Yeah,
everybody.
A lot of decorated guys now in the industry used to like race for that team.
Yeah. But they ran a great team like that back then. I mean, things were a little bit different, and the way the industry was, there was more money in the industry, like anything right now, but their semi and like they ran a top-notch team. Like they could even go down the States, and
they
fit right in,
right?
They did. Yeah. And they fit in. It's not like they were like a B team in the back or whatever. Like when they rolled into the US, they were a team. Yeah.
Was that when you were kind of doing your pro racing, were you kind of shooting to get onto a team like that, or were you
I was kind of before that a little bit.
Okay.
I was still in the box van days. Not that I'm aging myself here, but no, when I worked for Blackfoot and I rode for them, is right when they were starting like the Honda team back then. But I was sponsored by Blackfoot. I was on Suzuki at the time. And I guess I did look at it, but I never took racing that serious. You know what I mean? I'm one of those racers that I look back and I'm like, man, if I actually like did something with myself, I might have, Yeah. And that's one thing I even tell my son now. I'm like, don't leave anything on the table, because like I did. I honestly did. I never really took it serious. And I was a late starter. And I started when I was like 14, 15. I think I was pro by 17, 18. Like it went real quick.
Yeah.
But the people like I watched, like one of my best friends, like we're talking like Bart and you watch what he did. He was a guy that put everything on the table. You know what I mean? Might not have the most talent out there, but he worked. I watched him. He worked his butt off, right? And look where it got him. You know what I mean? He's had a great career and did good for himself, and's got some pretty, big wins under his belt, right?
Yeah.
Where I never did that. If I was at the bar the night before, I was at the bar the night before or whatever, right? So I'm a social guy. But it's but you always back then we didn't have the teams to shoot for that. You know what I mean? But,
So if you weren't necessarily shooting to be like top Canadian guy or on a team, what was kind of your mindset of racing back then? Did you have a backup plan of the dealership in your head already at that time? Or were you...
No, I started just the way everything worked with with racing. I always I had fun racing, and I've always raced or whatever, but I started taking work more serious younger than probably most racers do, because they try to hang on to the as far as you can, which I don't blame them, right? I knew I wasn't really I wasn't a top guy, so I knew right away, okay, I better get my life on track here. So I started concentrating at work and doing what we could. And when we started the dealership, like at Seitz, I think I was, like I'd be 24 is when we started that dealership, because it was right after Jackie and I got married. It was the same year we started the
Yeah.
dealership, got married. Yeah, like we had a lot going on that year, but yeah, 24 years old. I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of
and
crazy. You don't
going
really,
into to a dealership and
Yeah.
and literally opening the doors, going, okay, what do I got to do here, right?
Yeah. Exciting but scary.
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you learn quick.
yeah, you don't really hear about many people taking chances like that when they're that young these days. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, just the way it's. You guys are having fun. It's good. No, like honestly, it's just the way the world. You go back another era to like my dad, and he was doing it at 18 or
Yeah,
60.
right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just the way we're,
You
as
get-
we all.
It seems like you're pushed to mature faster as a kid now, but you're not pushed to figure it out as quick. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you got time to figure out your life, figure out where you want to go, figure out what you want to do. You don't have to do it at 18 like you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
You can be at home till you're 30 now and nobody blinks an eye at it.
well,
Yeah,
that
I
and it's
know.
like more expensive to do stuff now,
Yeah.
so it's
Well, I think
kind of harder too.
Yeah, we're also kind of fortunate from our parents, like busting their asses
Yeah.
when they were younger to
Yeah,
give us a more
absolutely. Yeah.
fortunate life, right? And so we have, like, I know I wouldn't be at where I'm at right now if it wasn't for my parents.
For
Because,
sure.
Like
Not at all.
if they didn't have their business and the success they had, like I'd probably be not really racing right now because I just wouldn't have that opportunity. So
Yeah,
For
it's-
sure. And you know what?
it
And
just- yeah,
as
compounds.
a parent now, like I see why your parents are doing it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I hope to do that. Well, I'm trying to give Dexter everything he can right now for racing, to give him, however far he goes, whatever he does, right? But hopefully he's not living in my house at 40 years old. But but it's, I also look at it like, okay, yeah, I started young and did all this stuff, but you only live once too, and you guys are fortunate. I mean, you're a top racer in the country, Keelan. So if I was your parents, I'd be doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Because you only live once. Give you every opportunity you can to do whatever you're doing. And honestly, you're early in your life, but you're gonna take that on. You know what I mean? Like, in 10 years from now, we could come and do a podcast, and you're probably gonna be some successful.
Yeah.
All you guys are. You know what I mean? Like this sport gives so much drive that we don't want to fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it goes two ways. I always look at it. It goes because we become addictive personalities, which can go, positive and negative.
Yeah.
If you're positive and you put it into business, you put it into work, doesn't matter what you do. Like if you're working the rigs, you're going to go up there and work your ass off. You know what I mean? Or it can go the other way, where if you start getting into drugs or start doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, that addictive personality kicks in. So it's a fine line when I watch, even raising, Dexter, he's young enough right now. I don't have to worry quite as much yet, but as he gets older, it's one thing we're going to keep an eye on, because like I say, you don't ever want a motocrosser to go the other way, because we've
Yeah.
seen, we can go on and on about stories
Oh,
of,
yeah.
of different people, right? So
Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, was being a mini dad, quote unquote. Like, yeah, how are your plans to balance that social life versus racing life with, your kid's really fast, so he's going to be, number one, a popular kid at the track, and he's going to be, a winner. So how are you going to
I leave that
balance that, or are you going to leave that up
I leave
to
that to
him?
Jackie. That's what mom's for,
Yeah.
right? No, we talk about it all the time as Jackie and I, like, it's tough. There's no, I don't know what's right or wrong, and we're going to live through it and do the best we can, right? And keep him on the right track is, hopefully the best we can. But
Yeah.
he's a good kid, and a lot of these kids are, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't know what age it kind of flips at yet, because I look at all of Dexter's buddies he races with at that, 11, 12 years old age, right? They're so innocent right now, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I got a few years, I think, to hopefully worry
17.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
17, it goes downhill.
Yeah, right. So we'll see what that happens, but I just hope as long as he keeps having fun and keeps the drive there, I think we'll keep on the right track, right? So
So one of the questions I had was, so how do you kind of keep that balance between, like, a lot of moto dads in the sport push their kids too far. So how do you keep that balance between, pushing them too hard and kind of being
Yeah.
their friend? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't. I'm not perfect either. I mean, I don't know. Like it's tough because I've I've ridden. I don't know if it's good or bad to be a dad who's raced. I haven't figured that out yet
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know what can be done on a bike, and I know how fast he can go.
Yeah.
And you always want him to be faster, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough, but then there's a lot of dads that have never raced, so they just sit back and they, or you get the dad who doesn't race and they push the kids to because they don't
Why aren't
they
you
don't get
jumping
it.
that?
Yeah, why
Don't
aren't you doing
jump
this? Why aren't you
that,
doing
you
that? And
know,
they're
yeah.
not out there doing it, right? So there's so many different avenues. But it is tough, and honestly, I get caught up in it for sure. Like it's when things are going good, everything's smooth, right?
Yeah.
But when he's having bad races, there's days I close the door in the trailer and let him have it, right? Because you want to see the best out of him, right? The only thing I try to do as a dad, like I say, I'm not a perfect by all means, but if I'm yelling at him or giving him trouble or trying to correct him or whatever, thank goodness I have my wife who calms me down, is one thing. But I never, I let it go, and then I try to get off of it and move on to the next thing. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't ever try to take it home or a week later still yelling at him or whatever. Like if it's after a race and I let him have it, he knows, right? And hopefully 10 minutes later I'm back to, okay, let's go back to Moto 2 and be a dad again, right?
Yeah.
But it's tough. There's lots of times I go home and I'm like, man, back to, we're just talking about my dad yelling, fighting, leaving the business. You know what I mean? It's the same thing even right now as being a dad and then having my kid. Like last thing I want to be doing is fighting with my kid. But you get caught up in it. You do. And then trust me, I've fought with him lots over racing. And now it's getting harder. I mean, you guys have been there where he thinks he knows everything now, right? So it's every time I'm mad at him, he's arguing back now, right?
Yeah.
So it's we're trying to find that balance. It's been interesting, but no, it's all good.
Was there ever a point where you thought you maybe didn't want to get Dexter into it? Like I
Oh.
know me and Dom have talked about it lots. Like we're thinking about having kids in the next few years, so we're like, man, like I really I think there's lots of positives that can come out of racing, but man, there's a lot of injuries and struggles that can come out of it. But it also can be a good thing. But you don't want to see it go the worst way, right?
Yeah. It's tough because we all, it's a dream to have a little boy that races, right? Like that's just, we're racers. That's what we all dream of. When I had Dexter, for quite a while I didn't like, he didn't even start racing until I mean, he was still young, but I wasn't one of those dads that had him on a PW50 with training wheels out there racing. You know what I mean? He was actually, I think not till the bigger 50s he actually started racing. So maybe 7 or so or 8, where a lot of these kids start at like 4, right? We tried everything. I had him in hockey. I had him in golf. I had him in like soccer. We put him in every sport we could, like everything we could. And for quite a while, actually, I think just him, born in a dealership, really, like he's literally been born on a bike, you know what I mean, since day one. He, for the longest time, it almost seemed like he wasn't into it. So I never actually thought he would never go anywhere. Like I never thought he'd actually even be into this sport. Like, and even when he did ride, he's like, yeah, whatever. Or you get him a new bike and he's like, oh yeah, cool. And I think it's just, not that he's spoiled, but it's just, he's been around it so long. It's just,
the curiosity wasn't there.
it wasn't there.
it.
Like I've seen people like, I've sold bikes to a dad, and they take it home to that kid, and that kid's just like, man, how it is. Dexter was never like that. You know what I mean? But it's not his fault. He just didn't know any different. Like it's just, it is what it is. It's a new bike, and it's going to be gone because my dad's going to sell it in 3 months from now anyways, and I'll have a different one. You know what I mean? Like that's just what he's used to. So it wasn't till like, the later 50 stages that he actually started, like for a while there, he'd lose a race, and again, the dad of me being like, man, what do you whatever. He's like, butterfly, like he didn't care, right? Then it was like, I'm like, yeah, he's not a racer. I honestly thought, I'm like, he's whatever, which is great. And then it just one day, like I think he lost a race and came off, and he was pissed right off, and I'm like, oh, he does have a little, he does maybe want something. And then when he kind of got that taste of doing good and whatever, then and now he's fully addicted to it, right? That's all he lives and breathes. And we still, like, we put him in snowboard in the winter, like he's on a riders on board, which is a competitive camp or whatever that he goes to, you know, twice a week or whatever. So when it comes winter, we try to shut it off and get him into that because he's actually a really good snowboarder too.
Yeah.
And so we try to still, like, even to this day, I still try to give him, you know, whatever opportunities he can, you know what I mean? But it just naturally, he keeps, even snowboarding this year, he didn't really, he's like, I don't know if I want to do it. I'd rather spend more time in California. It's like, well, you're not going to California this year because all this COVID, so you better get back into snowboarding, right? But he's just naturally getting addicted to it. We've never pushed him to, I've tried to push him in other ways just because of that safety factor. And it's tough because it's, we've all been through it, but it's, you know, as a dad, you want to, like I say, there's good and bad. There's the good of it is, you know, like, it keeps them out of trouble. They're having fun. His best friends are all his racers. Like, we all been through it, right? Yep. The bad about it is just, especially, you know, our sport's getting worse than what you can get out of it. And there's only a few of the elite riders that can really make something out of it. And if he ever does that, I don't know. And not that that's what we're here for, but if you're an elite at any other sport, man, what you can get out of it. And I've always wanted to try to push him in a sport where, like, anything in this industry I'd love to do, and not that I can do it, but what I'd love to see is somehow these racers get schooling out of what they do. Because that's what drives me nuts about this sport is any other sport you go to, you can get scholarships, you know, like even rodeo. Like, you can put rodeo and dirt bikes on the same scale. Like, they're both crazy. They're both doing the same, you know what I mean? And you can go get scholarships with rodeo. You can get it with, you know, water skiing, because, you know, my wife grew up water skiing or whatever, right? Like, and there's nothing for these dirt bike kids. And I would be all in if that was the case. Like, if I'd even be, not that I'm not all in already, but, you know, I'd be pushing hard because it'd be awesome to see these kids get scholarships and go to universities for it. Because they might not be a top racer that's making millions of dollars, but if they can get schooling out of it and paid for because of it, it's huge.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's a short career anyway, so a lot of people are kind of left not knowing what to do when they're done racing. So it would be kind of nice to have that kind of an outlet for that.
Yeah, that's I'd love to see that happen one day. But yeah.
Well, I think even too, like, if there was schooling opportunities out of racing, that would open up the door for outside sponsorship and more interest from, like, a little more mainstream brands than just our, like, typical industry brands, because then it's more diversified sport, right?
Yeah, you're probably right on that. It definitely it would open your eyes to, or open the industry, other people's eyes to it. Yeah,
because it's kind of like right now it's kind of one dimensional. Like, we're kind of in our own little world, and it's proving to be tougher and tougher to bring outside people in and grow the sport. Like, even we're seeing some of the mainstream brands that we do have in the sport, they're slowly leaving because I guess they're not really seeing the ratings going up or
not enough value.
Not enough growth. But I think things like that, where if we can start appealing to more people in different ways, that could help. But I actually, like, I'm curious to know, like, what do you think would help us grow, like, aside from just the point of that I made about schooling, but
to make the sport grow.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's tough.
Because it's kind of, like, plateaued for a while.
It is plateaued, and it's scary. It's really scary right now when we're seeing, like you say, sponsors that are in our own industry, like big sponsors.
Not even just in Canada, in the States.
In the States too, pulling out. You know, like, these energy drinks have fed the industry or the motocross racing for how long, right? Back in the day, it used to be, when I grew up, it was the smoking companies,
cigarettes,
you know, like Camel and then Coors Light, and, you know, and then the government stopped that, you know, from not letting the tobacco companies and stuff and alcohol companies advertise and do that, right? Which hurt us big time. So that, I was in that era where that really hurt. Like, when you have, like, Coors Light pulling out, it's like, wow, what are we gonna do? Like, all these big sponsors. At the time, that's when, thank goodness, these energy drinks have come in, right? What's scary right now is we're seeing some of these energy drinks pulling back, right? And this COVID's not going to help things, because when we're not having big races, and the you know, in Canada, the series isn't going across Canada, and And in the States, you know, just seen the new Supercross schedule with limited attendance. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get new people or people that aren't in the industry into it? Like, you know, if it, you know, name an industry that, you know, horse jumping. Let's say, I'm just not picking on horse jumping, but we're not into it. If Spruce Meadows had an event and they're only allowed half the people, like, we'd be like, I don't need to go. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where if it was a big event and someone give you a ticket, you'd maybe
Oh,
like,
yeah,
"Ah,
cool, I'll
check it
go,"
out
yeah.
for a
Just
weekend,
do it.
right?
There's extra tickets to give out too. Like they're just handing tickets out left, right, and center when they can just bring 50, 60,000
Yeah, they
people
want the
out
seats
there,
full, right? They get to a point where they sell, and then at that point, then
Yeah.
you start giving away tickets because it looks better when that place is
Mhm.
full,
Yeah.
right?
And then you're getting that new audience too. You get a few of us out there who have never been, and then you go, "Oh, all right, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
as
just something
lame
cool to
as we
check
thought it
out."
was going to be." And
Yeah.
the same would go for moto, but if we can't invite those people out, we can't have them out. We're only going to have our core people watching it this year.
Yeah, you're never gonna
Yeah.
grow like that.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, the only thing I'm hoping that this new, you know, with them going, you know, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, I guess the weekday races really spiked the TV
yeah.
ratings.
Yeah,
so,
good time slots.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that you know, because that's a lot of
That'd
And
be
that's all you
nice,
can hope for, really.
yeah. But the problem in Canada is we don't have that as much, right? Like we're more relying on putting the spectators at the races.
Yeah.
You know, like and leaning on outside sponsors. You know,
Yeah.
like Jetworks needs that. You know, like the rock stars and you know all of us like Fox. Every one of us try to help them feed it to
Yeah.
grow what we can, right? But to go back to your question of growing this industry, it's or growing this sport is I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that. Like it's you know, you look at different sports like NASCAR, which has kind of been dying lately because the younger generation's not into it. Do you know what I mean? It's boring. You know, even for us, like I don't know how many of you guys watch NASCAR. racing.
I've never watched it.
Yeah, it's only so much we can watch, and that's the older generation is who watches it. You know what I mean? Where the younger generation's not getting into it, so they're not. That's what our sport doesn't have that issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
We
not.
have
We're
the young
extreme sport.
crowd.
Like it's. So I don't know. I can't nail down like why.
Do you
what's
think
hurting.
that we have some sort of stereotype or stigma about our sport that prevents people from looking closer at it? Like just the average Joe, let's say they hear dirt bikes, they automatically assume freestyle. They don't even think about
Yeah.
racing, right? And then they're probably thinking, oh, loud music, rock and roll,
Yeah.
drugs, and all that stuff.
Partying.
When
Yeah.
when you look at our championship athletes, it's the furthest thing from the truth.
sure.
Right? They're as straight edge as it gets at times. I mean, they still let loose and have fun like any person, but do you think we have a stigma on our sport still?
I think we do a bit. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
Just because the sports change, and I don't think I think the I could be wrong here. This is my point of view. I think the hardest thing for motocross is people don't get into it. Like you know, like hockey, you get into because there's so many hockey players, right? And anybody can not. I shouldn't say this, it's gonna come out bad. Not that anybody can play hockey or do any sport.
It's cheaper to
But
get into.
It's cheaper. It's safer.
And
like
Every single one of your friends at school is doing it.
Is
pretty
doing it,
much,
right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you feel like an outsider if you're not.
Even if you're just skating, it's like you have some kind of relevance to
Yeah,
it.
you go to
for
the
sure.
outdoor rink.
Every especially in Canada, right? Because
Yeah.
that's you know, and probably it's the same as like baseball and these sports in the US,
Exactly.
right? We're if you go to a dirt bike race, you know, if you like, let's say we'll take Anaheim for instance. You know, you pack 50,000 people in there, probably 30,000 of them are kind of pretty into it, right? Like they've obviously they ride themselves, or it's family, or it's like they're dead. So the 20,000 that it's pulling in, that's not, racers, they're just something to do on a weekend. When they're watching, do you think they're going to be like, hey, I'm going to go buy a bike on Monday and I'm going to do this, right? Like it's
No.
not like that. And then the what scares me is the couple thousand that do think they can do it. Put yourself in their shoes where they go on Monday, go buy a bike, like they figure out how expensive it is,
Yeah.
but they get all the gear and even if they get that far where they're that committed, then they go to the track for the first time. Like, how intimidating
Oh.
it is?
Yeah.
Like for a person to come to the track for the
Yeah.
first time, or
Yeah.
a family to bring little Johnny at 4 years old to the track. Like,
Yeah.
and when you got like us,
Oh.
Yeah.
blasting whatever, we don't
Or
care
even
who's in
worse,
front of us because we're
in the
wanting a moto. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh.
In the States, going to Glen Helen, like I even get kind of intimidated when I go there, and I'm a pro.
Absolutely.
So it's like,
yeah. No, when I go riding in California, it's like like on the drive, like here, it's like you go to Calgary, it's like whatever. You talk for half an hour, you get your stuff. You know, you don't think anything of it, right? But when you're going, like you say, to Glen Helen on a Thursday or whatever day it is that opens, or Kahia on a Wednesday or on the weekend, it's like you're literally preparing yourself in your van, like getting yourself like you're going to a national, because it's like you don't pull in the track and just start doing slow laps. Like it's like game on right when you pull on, because you're gonna get run right over if
I
you don't.
remember feeling that way going to even a mini moto night at Paris.
Yeah.
We showed up. I had a mental breakdown. Started crying in the trailer because I can't ride with these kids. Like I can't do this.
Yeah, and then because it's all the fast kids.
Yeah,
and then you want to see mini dads. Like that's where I make myself feel like I'm not a mini dad, because I watch those mini dads.
Yeah, then you're nothing.
And I'm like, okay, I'm not that bad, right?
Yeah.
But they're out there with headsets like this, and their kids and you're watching this, and you're like, is this for real right now? And it's real.
Well,
like
there's two things I want to build off of on your coming to the track for the first time is intimidating. So I never really thought that way in town here till I wanted to get my girlfriend into riding. And then I'm starting to go, well, I don't want her on the track with those guys. That's going to be a little too much for her. That's in the way for, now we got to go find somewhere for her to learn how to ride better. Luckily, our track has multiple tracks to it, so we can kind of put them on a beginner track for a while or something. But then also, like, I always look back to as a kid there when my dad was getting us into it. And I think it's gotten even worse now, but back then even I had probably a 10-year-old 80 bike, right? It had conventional forks on it instead of the upside downs, and I had old gear that was hand me. And you're looking around at all these guys that got the brand new $10,000 this and that, and suspensions all done up, motor work, and you're thinking, I just don't belong here, right?
Yeah.
So I think our sport kind of needs to somehow gain that grassroots where it was like, I didn't live through it obviously, but the 70s or 80s whenever, when you're pulling up in a pickup truck, duct tape numbers, like everybody was kind of on the same playing field unless you were in a box van or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't intimidating to pull up beside anybody because they were riding a clapped out piece of junk too.
Yeah, no,
You
for
know?
sure. But the other thing too is they had riding areas too. Do you know what I mean? That's why it wasn't as intimidating either, because you could ride in everybody had tracks. Right. Everybody had hills, and they built like tracks back then, and whatever, right? Now it's so regulated and so shut down where we only have certain areas to ride, and the whole population's got to go there, right? So that makes it tough too, because you are putting like a Keelan Meston, who's a number 4, is that we finished?
Sure.
Yeah, or whatever it was. But a top pro in Canada, right? And then you got the kid, like you say, that's pulling up. I witnessed it this year, and like I said, I'm not gonna throw names under the bus, but I watched it with my own eyes where a kid pulled up, and I guarantee it was his first time at the track. And he's probably about Dexter's age, like that 10 to 12. He's on a 80, and he, I'm just putting myself in his eyes, and he probably seen like, all the a bunch of the kids out there riding. It was a hill track, and he's seen kids on 80s because whatever, all the kids are out there, plus all the fast guys, whatever. And he could barely make it up the hill, but he thought that's where he needs to go, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the pros, whatever, come up behind him, and he was in the way or whatever, so he revved his bike, to let him know, like excuse me type thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, a kid hearing a 450 to the rev limiter behind him, right? This kid, like, he literally was like in tears. Yeah. Like in tears.
And
right.
So
I went.
Want to come back tomorrow?
Nope. So I went and I went and helped him, right? And I'm like, hey, he's like, well, it's his first time there. I'm like, hey, buddy. I'm like, and I showed him, like, here's where the track you should be, like, showed him what to do, and kind of calmed his nerves down, right?
Yeah.
Then I went and talked to the pro. I'm like, dude, like, if I, not that, like, me trying to help this kid or anything, but I'm like, if I didn't go talk to that kid, he would never be back at this track ever a day in his life. Ever a day in his life. I'm like, you scared him that bad that he was, like, in tears. And he's like, and he's just looking at me. He's like, and so he's like, you're right. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, well, I just want you to know, like, just look at the big picture, right? Yeah. And he actually went over and to the 80 track and said sorry and actually helped the kid, like, taught him a bit, right? Good. Now it just, like, it totally,
now you can tell us who
totally flipped it, right? Now that kid's gonna, he could be now addicted for the rest of his life.
Right.
I don't even know who the kid is,
well,
but
and, if you think about that kid going back to school, right? If he goes back to school and all the kids know he's got a dirt bike, because surely he's sharing it on social media and everything. So if he goes back to school and says, I had such a bad time. I'm never doing that again. None of those kids are even going to be interested in trying it themselves. But if he goes back to school and says, holy smokes, that was sick. I was there and, the pro came over and helped me out and everybody there is awesome. All those other kids are going to go home to their parents and say, get me a dirt bike, get me a dirt bike, get me a dirt bike.
No,
right?
it's true. We live through it because we go to a country school, right? So it's farm kids or whatever that Dexter goes to, and he's got a bunch of kids in his school that right. And there's a either a kindergarten or a grade 1 because his school goes from like kindergarten to grade 9. It's so small, but there's a new kid that came to school, and they came and introduced him to Dexter because this kid rides dirt bikes, and the teachers
nice.
wanted to make sure that they knew who whatever, just so this kid whatever, right? Like it's a small community, but the kids do like they think like, and I don't want to talk about my kid or anything like that, but it's funny because they were in class, Googling things, right? So they're like, let's Google our names. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody Googles their name. Well, in our sport, we have a lot of social media. Like if you're a hockey player, you don't get the social media. Like it's just our sport is based around social media.
Yeah.
And so they Googled Dexter's name, and a bunch of things popped up, right? Like whatever, and they're like, "You're famous," or whatever, right? We had to go to a parent-teacher interview like that night, and this kid's coming up, he's like, "I can't believe how famous Dexter is," because his name came up on Google. Like that's all it was. It was
I
nothing,
remember the
right?
same thing when I was a kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing.
But like you say, these kids are like, "Whoa, this sport is," and it kind of like, and a bunch of his kids in his class now are all into dirt bikes. They all got like, it's funny. I drove by one the other day, and right where I seen you on the highway there the other day, and if you look to your left, there's a couple jumps out in the field. Like the dad's even starting to build jumps and stuff, right?
Nice.
Like it's cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest challenge there is like, if we can, or I guess if somebody gets to that point where they buy the bike, and if they even do get to that point, like get past the price tag, is bridging the gap after that is like figuring out which genre of our sport's right for you as well, because like with hockey, it's hockey,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hockey's hockey. Like you play games.
Yeah.
You go to shinny and whatever, or you play for some league, or
Well, you were more ringette yourself, weren't you, Keelan?
yeah, I got pretty good at
Figure
that.
skating.
Yeah, figure skating.
My dad was a figure skater. Oh shit! I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that on the podcast.
Gentle
But,
Jerry's doing the triple solos or what?
Yeah. I
South
could just see
Cal, bro,
Jerry
come
doing
on.
that.
That's funny. Yeah, but like with our sport, there's so many different genres of it, right? Because we got like hard enduro cross, supercross, motocross.
I even don't even know what's going on with the off-road stuff. Like, is there?
Yeah, there's
like,
so many, like the work series.
I seen that Tristan Hart signed to Red Bull KTM or whatever. I'm like, for what? I don't know. Like, is he
Do it
doing
the times,
enduro
man.
cross or is he doing
Endurocross,
works or
hard
what? I don't know
enduro.
what he's doing.
Yeah, they
No
kind of,
idea.
it is hard to follow because KTM or all these teams have different, like there's the GNCC, so then they sponsor a bunch of riders for that.
Yeah.
And they got the works. I think that's what Tristan's doing is works. I think, and
he
or
doing
enduro cross.
he's doing hard enduro and enduro cross.
See, I
Is
don't
that
even.
what- yeah.
I don't even
So,
know.
but
what the
then I
difference is.
thought hard enduro would be like what's going on now. What's Romaniac? Is that what's going on? Right
Yeah,
Yeah, that's hard
Romaniacs
enduro.
are like
so I
Erzberg.
thought Tristan would be over there because
Is that
that's hard
extreme?
enduro.
I
But
don't know if
or-
like has even Colton Hacker hasn't even.
He
gone
just does
over
enduro
there.
yeah,
cross, I
well,
think,
like
right?
Webb finished I think second there a couple years ago. Whatever. So those
Romaniacs?
guys will.
Cody Webb. Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he went.
I don't know if it's Romaniac, but it's one of them. Maybe I'm thinking Erzberg or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I know there is so many different
So-
things.
But
But
that's the thing is once that person buys the bike, like bridging that gap to like, okay, what do I do now? Like I had a conversation with the marketing gal at Husky the other day, and she says that's what like something they've been trying to figure out for years is just sure you can get people to buy the bikes, but then keeping them in the sport is difficult because it's just bridging that gap to the next point of where do I go and ride, or what do I actually enjoy riding? Am I going to enjoy off-road, or am I going to enjoy some sort of racing? And how do I get to that point? Like even for me, like I kind of like to explore other areas of our sport and maybe go do some off-road racing, but I have no idea where to start. But my first idea is just to go ask some of the people that I know that are doing it.
Mhm.
But for somebody that's never done the sport, like where do they do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect there as well.
yeah, no, I agree.
So, like, listening to you guys talk about all these different disciplines we have in this sport here, do you think we were talking about how do we grow our sport earlier? Do you think we'd be better suited if we kind of tighten that up? I mean,
How do you
dirt bikes
do
can
that
go
though?
anywhere and do anything, right? We know that. Should we tighten up our off-road, tighten up the motocross side so that it's two kind of disciplines so that people have a
Yeah,
better idea
Well,
of
it would
what's
make
going on?
those that whatever disciplines are bigger for sure.
Yeah. Or
Because everybody has so many different, like you look at the enduro cross, like, I'm following that down there, right? It doesn't look like a lot of people there. Like, I don't know what the entry is, but I mean, not a lot of people would go.
yeah.
I've raced my whole life, and you're not gonna. I wouldn't go into that, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's just a
same.
different,
Yeah.
mindset, right? You know what I mean? Where those guys, I mean, most of them are so good now because they're universal riders, but a lot of them would look at us like idiots doing a
Yeah.
80-foot triple in front of us
Yeah.
too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's so, yeah, like Keelan's saying, it's so different. You know what I mean? But what I do like seeing is a lot of these riders are, like Tristan talked about him like getting a factory ride, which is unbelievable for him, right? I mean, we've seen him on the moto track. Like that guy's
He's good.
He's a top pro here. Like
Yeah.
he can
Mm-hmm.
that guy can do anything, right? So it's cool to see how diverse those guys are for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, who was it? Caleb Russell, who went to Unadilla a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he was like running fourth for a while.
Podium type guy. Like,
Yeah.
those guys are no slouches.
I feel like that translates more to moto than
Than
like
moto.
we
Than-
can't.
than
Go.
us
Well,
going-
Keelan
yeah.
has done it though.
Yeah.
He's gone to Rocks and Logs or whatever
Oh,
and done pretty well. Like
Osborne's done ISDE and
I think once you
GCCs and
reach a
stuff.
certain level on a bike and
Yeah.
get those bike skills,
yeah, you just need to spend
You'll
a little
figure
bit
it
of
out.
time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Keelan did. Like we all know how to ride bikes. We have all raced pro or whatever, right? But you just took the time to like I watched you last year. You're like, okay, I'm doing this, and you went all in. Like you
Yeah.
went all in, right?
yeah,
like
it took me like 2 weeks. I probably rode every day, trying to learn off road.
oh yeah, I was watching the parts you were replacing on your bike every
Oh,
time you came
yeah.
back to the van, right? But you
Yeah.
made yourself learn it. And like I say, when you have a bike technique of being able to do anything, as long as you can put your mind to it,
That's right.
I'm sure we could all do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
I always say that about Supercross too, because you go to the first time you go on a Supercross track. I mean, you've been there, right? You
Oh,
go,
yeah.
you're like a real Supercross track in States. Like, I remember rolling one. I'm like, oh, like this is
Yeah.
what is this? Then you start kind of, if you can take your time and spend 2 weeks on the thing,
Yeah.
and then when you get them down, then it's like really you got to worry about rhythm sections and whoops because everything's pretty much the same after
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So as soon as you get it, you get it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you got to get it.
Yeah, you get to that point where you adapt those skills on a bike, and then it's just a matter of just fine tuning for whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know it's funny bringing up Supercross because when we were training for the final portion of the Triple Crown series there at Gopher, there was that Vision Built track that a lot of guys were training at.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like
really cool.
like a spec Supercross track, and my first day riding it, I was ready to pack up and go home. I probably rolled everything for like 6 laps before I even tried doubling something, and then but then by the end of it, I was like going 3-3 and tripling onto tables
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and now it's put me to the point where like I just believe I could go do a Supercross now. Like I have this urge that I want to go line up for a race, but now even just doing that, like lining up for the enduro cross and then lining up for these Supercross races and learning, like forcing myself to learn Supercross is now I believe I can. Yeah, like if I set my mind to it for a little bit, I feel like I can do it. I might not be the best, or I might be really good, or I might be absolutely awful, but I still believe that at some point I'll be able to just figure it out and do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, there is a lot of cool things to do on a bike, and
Yeah.
and
A good person, I always say this just because he's a good, close to our family and stuff, but growing up watching him or whatever, but you get Cody Matichuk, like I mean, he's multi-time X Games gold medal now at snow biking, but that guy can do, like you put him basically on anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
amazing
remember like
athlete,
going
but-
to we went to Arena Cross. It was like in the corral, maybe 2006, 7. We were young, and we're like, he's riding a Razor scooter in the little barn area, and he's just like insane doing the tail whips and stuff. I'm like, this guy can do anything.
anything. Like
Yeah.
I've even seen him do stuff that he's not like doesn't do, and give him an hour and he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like he'll figure it out,
Yeah.
and he'll figure it out like in a in a way that'll if someone's there doing it, you know what I mean? He'll figure out how to do it. Like
I think a lot of us motocross racers have that ability to pick things up, learn quick, adapt quick, and not just like figure it out a little bit, but figure it out pretty good.
because we always want to be good at it.
Yeah.
We want to be. That's
have
our
that drive.
We have the drive. And like I say,
I
we
think
just talked about this earlier about work and you know what the future has to hold. But this sport makes you want to be the best at whatever it is you can do. And we get mad if we're not. Take me bowling. I get pissed.
That's
right
Oh,
right.
off.
I can't go bowling. Put the
Yeah.
bumpers up, or I'm not going
Yeah.
bowling.
Or I think it's that combo of, you know, that desire to succeed at it and be the best, even if it's just for yourself today, and also that lack of fear or something like that. When we're talking about other sports, not bowling, obviously, but talking about doing tail whips on a scooter, riding BMX or something like that. We just don't have that same, or the way our bodies or minds process fear, I think, is so much different than a regular person, so to say, that we can pick up those things and put the fear aspect of it behind and just learn how to do it.
Yeah, and I think watching Cody, like using him as an example, just because, you know, just a few weeks ago I watched him, you know, we're at Chris Foster's house and they had airbag set up, and Brett Turcotte was wanting to backflip his electric bike, right? Be the first one to do it. So they got this big airbag, and Brett's just so good at backflips. Like the guy can't hit a jump without backflipping. Like literally, he's just so naturally gifted at it. But anyways, then Cody pulls out his pit bike, right? And I don't know. I didn't ask Cody if he was planning on wanting to back. I don't think he did. I think he was just like, it just all kind of snowballed in. But then Brett set up the ramp and, you know, hits it on the electric bike, and Cody's like, I think I can hit this on the pit bike, right? So then he hits it on the pit bike, and it's a big gap into an airbag.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Turcotte starts backflipping, and so then Cody's like, well, I think I could backflip the pit bike, whatever. So he backflips it in the airbag, and then all of a sudden now he's moving the ramp over, and because Brett's taking it to dirt now, and somehow Cody's like, oh, if I did an airbag, I think I could take it to dirt, right? And he does it like nothing, right? And but watching him do that is exactly what you said. I think the reason why like someone like Cody is so good is he takes the fear out of whatever he's doing, and he can shut it off. Do you know what I mean? Like me, if I was going in doing that backflip to dirt, it would be the fear going like, oh, please land this, please land this, please land. You know what I mean? Like it'd be fear taking over what I'm supposed to do, where all he's concentrating on is like, okay, what do I need to do to stick this thing? You know what I mean? So he's taking the fear out of it, and that's what makes some of these elite athletes so gifted.
And he gets some of that from, like, think about wingsuiting. He does a lot of wingsuiting, right? That's like the most dangerous thing you can do.
Yeah.
So you think about kind of taking the fear out of that, and then you translate that into like doing a backflip on a pit bike. That's nothing.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Well, I think with racing dirt bikes or just growing up riding bikes and with that progression to get faster and faster and faster, your focus just gets trained year after year. And like, I think we just get so OCD and so attentive to what we're doing. And then that snowballs into everything else we're doing. Like for me, if there's some little task I want to learn, like I'll be like a cat on a mouse, like trying to learn it. Like I remember when I first started trying to learn how to juggle, I probably sat in my room for like 2 weeks straight when I was 16 years old, just trying to learn how to juggle and do like tricks and stuff. But I think like that whole, the focus we learn from riding bikes and just like when you're on a bike and when you start pushing, you're locked in. And especially when you're riding the edge, it's almost like your focus is just like so zoomed in. And then I think that helps us with other things in life and not just doing like action sports stuff or trying to backflip a bike. But that's a good point about Cody, is like, he's probably like, he's been like that his entire life, and he's probably like, you can tell when he's going to do something, he's just he's so tapped into what he's doing, and he's able to do it, and probably comes from that eliminating the fear and being just so like, just having that like fine-tuned focus.
Yeah.
I think you're training your subconscious when you're doing all these things, like all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like you say, it is the focus. If you're focused on the fear, I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to upset somebody, I don't want to fail, whatever your fear is, you're going to achieve that focus.
Mhm.
If you're focused on the success of, ooh, if I don't wingsuit down this cliff properly, I'm probably going to die, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't think about that. You got to think about just flying.
Yeah.
Because
He doesn't even. But when you talk to him, he doesn't even think like the dying like or hitting like it's not even on his radar. Like when he's wingsuiting, he's like, okay, I'm 4 feet from this rock ledge. I want to be 2 feet from this rock ledge. Like that's how he thinks.
I think that's how you have to think if you're doing stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, I look at you guys, Keelan and Jared, whatever, like, and I watch you guys on the track, and it's like, I'm out there going as hard as I possibly can. You know what I mean? I think, and I'm in the zone. I'm in that, you know, like, I'm feeling good. Things are just like, you're hitting the ruts perfect. And then, like, you guys go, you know, standing up by me, like literally not even trying, and you're passing me. And it's like, how does that work? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm in the zone. I'm hitting this rut perfect. My toes tucked in. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. And you're like taking it easy by me, like standing up, going around the outside, which I should have the fast line, and you're gone. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's like anything, like any sport, but it's like, how do you like, how, I guess it's progression and you know, experience and stuff like that. But it's funny because you wouldn't even get it, like watching you grow up as a pro or whatever, like 4 years ago, you know what I mean? Like or 5 years ago, whatever, you're a pro in Calgary and you know, kind of everybody's the same speed. Because when you get to pro, everybody's kind of the same speed. You know what I mean? Like it's tough, but it's hard to take yourself to that next level. Do you know what I mean? Like I always say that. I tell Dexter all the time, like what you're going through right now is the easiest stage of your life. Like you're going to get faster real easy. And even when you become pro, but when you get to the top of the pro, like where you are, and then to try to take it to that next step, which you were able to do, like, you know, you're one of the top in Canada. Like I watched you last year, you know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you know, you're, you know, 9th, 10th, whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm at Walton and you're passing Alessi and I'm like, whoa, like you're one of those riders now. You know what I mean? And then when you come home, you can see it on the track. You're so like a far advanced over everybody. But I bet you don't even know what, like you just kind of naturally just kept coming to you and confidence. And, but was there ever a point where you're like, the light switch happened and you're like, you know, change your riding style or is it just like a,
Well, I mean, I think like you said about like your son Dexter, like it's just gonna get to a point where, well, yeah, he's just gonna get faster and faster and faster. And I think for some kids, it gets to a point where something just clicks, and then they find that next gear, and then they're fast for a while. But then after that is the really challenging part, where it's down to the fine little details. It's like the pyramid. Like it's easy to build the foundation of riding, where like you learn proper technique and this and that, and how to ride a bike with one finger on the clutch and the brake and the simple stuff, and then the next thing is calculating lines. But then after that, like the top of the pyramid, like the tiny little pieces, but like the tiny little details, but it's the last little bit. Like it seems like it won't take much, but to find those
piecing it all together.
Yeah, those tiny little bits is really difficult. And I mean, I still struggle too. Like I deal with that as well. Like when I go down south and train somewhere, and I feel like I'm taking the best possible lines and I'm hitting them as hard as I can. And then all of a sudden, like Jet Lawrence is pulling a second and a half on me a lap at the track we're at. I'm like, man, like what am I like? I felt like I was going as fast as I could, but then I'll go back to, I think I attribute at least my progression to just being so OCD and attentive to what I'm doing, and looking at every little detail that I can change or manipulate to hopefully get some different result, whether it may be a bad result and then I have to go back and change it again, or if it's a good result and then capitalizing it on it and being like, okay, like that worked. We're going to continue to do this and then continue on from there and continue to grow. But yeah, I don't know. I do it every day, and it's funny because like going to the Chilliwack races, like it's been a long year, and I'm ready to take some time off the bike. So I was like, yeah, I'll just go and have fun. Like, I didn't really expect anybody to give me much of a challenge there, and so I kind of went underprepared, and like those kids are fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but me being the racer, I'm like, all right, I can't get waxed by like these little BC pros and intermediates. Like, so I got to put my work in. But even when I'm at races like that, I'm like, okay, like maybe I got to go up half a psi on my tire, or like maybe my spokes are too tight, or like maybe I got to stand a little later into the turn. It's like everything's just, to me, that's just how I operate, is just every little detail I feel like can add up into bigger things.
Yeah.
So if I can take like 10 little details, that might compound into a half a second off my lap time, which at least in indoor racing, that's a lot. But and same with outdoor racing, like a half a second off your lap time in a let's say a 20 lap or a 20 lap race is almost 10 seconds. And by the end of the race, that can be a position difference, right? Because especially where we're at, everybody's pretty tight. Like a lot of the guys in Canada, at least in the top 5 to 7 to 8 range, are pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And you only see them, they're about like they're usually like the top 2 guys are like 2 seconds off each other, and then even back behind that it's 5 seconds, then 9 seconds. But if all those little details, if you can figure them out, then eventually that's gonna start shaving time. Like it's, to me, like that, it's a math problem a little bit, and I think just anything can change that equation.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It is so, and Jared's class is even, I find it even tighter that way. Like there's 20 of you guys that are all, you know what I mean? Like it's that 250 class, like it's fast, you know what I mean? And yeah, just trying to put it all together. It's like, it's funny how, it happens, and it's hard to figure out those pieces. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
hard to figure out the pieces, and then putting the pieces together is even harder, right? Like,
and that's what makes our sport so hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Jared, you've gone through a lot, you know what I mean, with injuries and stuff, and Jared on the track is crazy. We all know how fast Jared is, right? We all know what he can do. Like, and it sucks because no offense against you, but I wish the rest of Canada knew. You know what I mean? Because like we pull up the moto park, before Walton, and I think it was you and Hillstead, right? Out there practicing or whatever. Yeah, and Dexter rolls up, whatever, we're getting ready, and Jared's pounding moto, and the fastest guy on the track. Like it's just the way Jared is, right? But no one really knows who Jared is at moto park. And we pull up, and then Dexter's buddies that are from there, they're like, man, this guy, like, and he's like, Dexter's like, that's Jared. Like, that's, you don't know who Jared is. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, but for us, we get to see you ride every day, right? So it's tough that the injuries that you've gone through and stuff, but we all know you still, and that's why you did what you did this year to go do it, because we know you still have so much more in you than you've shown, right? So
yeah, it can be frustrating.
Yeah, it's and I was kind of like that too. Not, you put a lot more, you put everything into it, which is awesome to see. I didn't, but I kind of rode the injury train a lot too growing up. You know what I mean? I always said anytime I felt the fastest I ever felt, all of a sudden it's like something just hit me and put me back down. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's tough to ride that train.
2-stroke. As soon as it was faster than it's ever been before, it was about to blow up.
Yeah. That's one of the things we were just talking there too. Like when I was talking with Jason Mitchell back at Blackfoot there the other night, we were talking about that too, and because he still follows racing, he knows everything still. Like as much as you think he's out of it, he's not. He knew everything about everything, right? Yeah. And but he said that's what's great about our sport now. Like when he's talking to Dexter, he was saying like the bikes have changed now. You know what I mean? Like you don't, like back then they fought like bogging on a face of a jump all the time, or throttle tube sticking. We're talking about Blair Morgan, how his, where he hurt himself in Nanaimo because his throttle stuck open. Yeah. Like these 4-strokes, like you're not really seeing that anymore. Like the bikes have changed so much that it's making it safer, I think too. Like we're not seeing the injuries like it was. I mean, we still see injuries. Trust me, it's dangerous, but it's safer than it's ever been. like
The
the clothing
gear.
companies like I work for, that's all changed. Like the
Yeah.
helmet technology's changed. Like we're making it safer and safer. And I think the other cool thing is these kids also have social media now, and people like, pros like yourself who are out there all the time. Like when I grew up, no one ever taught me, and I didn't, like, we'd watch a race like a year later if it was accidentally on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no like watching YouTube or Instagram that day.
Mhm.
Now these kids are like, they watch it and then they go straight to the track and want to do it.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
remember
I mean? So it's
I remember listening to the race, like the race broadcast. Like I'd sit in front of the computer and listen to the Supercross broadcast. You couldn't even watch it
Oh, really?
as a kid. Yeah.
yeah, that was back. Who was the announcer back then? That was
I can't think who it
Yeah.
was. Art
Bailey?
Ekman.
Art Ekman or Bailey.
Bailey, yeah.
Bailey would have been
Yeah.
a good one.
I remember listening to him all the time. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's going to be cool to see, and I hope this sport gets back healthier or gets healthier or whatever. But it's going to be cool to see this younger generation. Like, man, there's so many fast kids growing up right now.
It's-
So many.
There's
like
a lot.
you get down in the States and you see like these, like, everyone's like, oh, Deegan, he's in the limelight, and they're making him famous. Like just that's their
Yeah.
objective is for him to be
Mhm.
famous. But man, the kid can ride.
Yeah.
Like I've trust me, we're at races with him all the time. Like he
Yeah.
can
Oh,
he can
yeah.
back up his
Yeah.
YouTube and stuff. Like when he goes out, that kid can ride a bike and he's
Yeah.
smart. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's like watching literally like a seasoned pro out there on an 85. Like
Yeah.
he rides, like when he gets a bad start, like the kid is just, it's like he doesn't even phase him. He just picks his lines through and just he
Yeah.
knows what
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, these kids are so good now.
But it's getting kind of like oversaturated almost now, because like you see guys like that are so good that like look at Ty Masterpool for instance. Like he led laps, he finished on the podium. He doesn't have a ride for next year,
Yeah.
and that's just like there's so many good guys that if you don't perform, if you get hurt, like people get hurt all the time in this sport. So if you get hurt, there's another guy ready to
Right
take
there.
your spot.
I've always thought that too. Like, and I don't know if it's just me, just the living through the era I'm living through right now, but is if, like, to me, I feel the same way. I feel like there's so many fast riders now, like so many, that it's harder.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm just saying that because I'm watching my son go through this now or whatever.
Mhm.
And like, but like when Carmichael and Stewart, like, let's say that era, not that far behind us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They always stood out, you know what I mean? Like
They
ever
were
since they were-
ahead above
ahead
everyone
everybody.
else. Yeah.
And do you think it was easier back then? Like, do you think there was less fast guys? Or am I just saying that because I want to believe that because I'm in the era I'm in
Right.
now?
It's
But
hard to
to
say.
me, now it seems like, man, like there's so many fast kids.
There's so
like-
many variables, right? Like there is these elite talents like Carmichael and Stewart that were just like so much better than everyone else. But it's hard to say if there's like more guys that are getting the opportunities to show their
Yeah.
potential, or were these guys just that much better?
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think it's just like people are learning from the people behind them or before them, and they're just putting more and more effort into
Yeah.
it now. Like it being more diligent with training and being more diligent with bikes and yeah, like I mean, nothing against families and eras before us, but like I feel like people are probably putting even more money into racing now, and
Oh, for sure.
and I don't know, you probably know more than me, but JC, but I don't know a ton about the American industry, but I feel like these kids' families are buying their way onto these amateur teams.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I guarantee they are.
Yeah.
And
guarantee they are, for
So,
sure.
and with doing that, like they're getting this opportunity to have more knowledge and more staff and people around them to help kind of coach them along the way with better bike setup, better training, better structure at the track, and they're just getting honed throughout the ranks. Whereas like back in the day, the only kid that you really saw doing that was like the oddball guy, like a Cincerello. But then you heard of guys like Jason Anderson who could rip and had tons of natural talent, but didn't really try and didn't really put the work in. But then they get pro and then they start doing it. Whereas now, like these young kids coming up, like
No,
the
they're-
Derek Drakes and the Nate Thrashers and the Ty Masterpools, like they're on it from a very, very young age. And it's yeah, like you said, it's it's getting saturated with these kids that are just so dialed in now.
I feel like there's more guidance. Like the teams are getting more involved at a younger age. So like there's more guidance as they're trying to develop through their career, right?
Yeah, they're starting to pick these kids up, right? Well, Team Green's kind of always done that though.
Yeah, they have. But now there's like all the teams.
Now
are
all the
doing it.
teams are. Geico was really on it before what happened with them. But PC too, like they're or Star Yamaha, like Will Hahn, like we see them, like it's crazy because we'll be at the Supercross like last year in Anaheim, and Will's out there with all his pros, doing his thing, right? Because he's a team manager, and the next morning we had to be there for the futures, because Dexter was racing the Supercross, the futures, and it was you got to pull in literally at 5:30 in the morning, and it starts at like 6, like riders meetings at 6 in the morning, and we pulled in, and they just kind of like whatever you pull in, and the Star Racing box van happened to be parked beside us. And Will Hahn was the first one there, with his amateur group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like, and he was there all day helping them, right? And it was like they don't do the 85 thing, but it was kids from like the C class right up, I think C class or at least B, and then the A's or whatever, right? But they had 4 or 5 of them, right? And Will Hahn did not miss a race, and he was on them, and like I say, he was given the guidance that they need, right?
Yeah.
See, and that's a unique situation there too, like the Star Racing and the Will Hahn, and especially with him where he's had some high success with a championship and then some real low lows with injuries and some poor results and stuff, and hiring a guy like that can really help these kids that have been there and done that and been on both ends of the spectrum, whereas like maybe in comparison, a guy like, let's say, Tomac hasn't really had a tough career yet, through obviously he's had his challenges,
Yeah,
but
he's always
it was
been
never
good.
at least from what we see, it seems like he's never hit a rock bottom, whereas maybe having a guy like a Will Hahn, where he's been all over the map, he can really kind of like, if he has a kid that's going through a struggle, he can look back on his past experiences or something.
When he ends his career, he'll be more famous from a team manager than he will when he runs. For sure.
Absolutely.
He is racking up the resume, like it's like the championships that guy is pulling as a team manager right now. I don't think he's gone a year since he started without winning a championship.
At least one of them,
Like
and
he's
that team is massive now.
massive.
3 450 guys, and it's like 6 250s.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even.
That's
I don't even know
amateur
because
guys,
there's like I say,
amateur
there's
dudes too.
the amateurs that we don't even know that's behind the
Yeah.
scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's good though.
But I
Glad
think
someone's doing it.
building off what you're talking about with the guidance is a really good point, because you look now, everybody's under that team truck. They've got Will Hahn and they've got, whoever it is, whatever team manager. They're all good managers, let's say. And they've got the team manager's a good coach. They got a coach who's a good coach. And then, like you look at Tomac, who had a dad who was, a professional athlete as well. So you got multiple people guiding them, versus when you were trying to go pro or a pro and you were in a box van, it was, here you go.
Oh yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah.
Go race.
Yeah.
That was it. You got to go figure it out. So you had only 2 guys figure it out, Ricky Carmichael and James. Obviously, they weren't box van days, but you kind of get where I'm going with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
If you're let off on your own, people will still figure it out, but a lot less people. When there's an instruction manual on how to do it, it's kind of easier to follow and gain those leaps and bounds.
And that's what's tough about in Canada. We still kind of live that.
Yeah.
Like we still live that box fan days. Honestly, we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's a few teams that are up there. You know what I mean? That have more guidance, but really, when you look at the big scheme of things, like Canada's still living the box fan days.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so tough when we go down to compete against these Americans, because like you say, you're pulling up and they're in, they're on factory rides already. You know what I mean? Like it's like even Dexter's age, like it's crazy how many kids he pulls up to the line that are already signed like riders. Like they ride for either the Brigade team or the Yamaha team or the Cal, or not Yamaha in 85s as much, but like the
Well, Mumford
PC
was
team.
signed when he was like 12.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like it's so they definitely can groom them more in the US than we do here, right? But makes us tougher though, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's cool seeing the amount of, like, I guess we kind of said that the sport's at a bit of a plateau right now, and which it is, but I get excited seeing like going to the Chilliwack rounds and seeing how many dedicated families there are and how many kids are like really flying now
Oh,
and
man.
and I really hope I really hope the families and these kids stick with it, because I know like for us growing up, like we had a lot of like fast competition, but like where are they now? Like maybe there wasn't the incentive to stick with it, or
The money
Yeah, that's
or whatever.
money, yeah,
there's
finances,
lots
or
to it. That's and
lots
that's
of factors, but
that's every sport though too. You know,
Yeah.
because I say I grew up in a hockey family, and you watch that too. Like you go out and you see the Timbits, and there's 10 teams of Timbits in one city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like then you get up to Adam, and there's like 8 teams, and you get to novice, or I might be going
Yeah.
backwards. It might be novice and Adam, whatever. Then Pee Wee. Then when you get up to Bantam and midget, like you get to the midgets, and there's
3
like they're
teams.
scrounging to
Yeah,
get a
yeah.
team together. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's like 16, 17-year-old kids,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Yep.
just that's just the way life works, unfortunately, right?
Yep.
But
yeah, I guess just say like with I hope they stick with it, because I think for a while it's just we've seen, I don't know, I feel like in the West we just haven't seen a whole lot of like standout talent, and now it seems like a lot of these kids are really starting to find themselves, and they're starting to, at least for me, they're starting to impress me on bikes. Like a lot of these BC kids are just, yeah, really impressive indoors and outdoors, and some West kids did really well at Walton this year, and even some, yeah, local Calgary kids are really stepping it up too. Like, yeah, like Dexter and Wyatt Hassel looks like he's really starting to find another gear, and Parker's a ripping little 50 kid, Parker Hat, and yeah, it's I don't know, it's really cool, and I really hope we see like a wave of good talent carry
I
it
think
through
we
the
will.
weeks.
I think we will. I think the families that are into it right now are into it, and I hope, like, I think they will. You know what I mean? I think
Mhm.
they're pretty dedicated, especially in this area, just because we know them. I think the BC people are too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think the West is. It's good. It's fun, and you know, it's good for all the kids. You know, you want that fast. It makes everybody faster. You know what I mean? Like, man, like Dexter was. His first super mini race there in the indoors, and there's some fast kids. Like that whole
Oh.
class is fast, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, and he's kind of been used to like, not I shouldn't say it's in a bad way, but when you race the 65s, like there's not as much talent, not talent, but it's different. I'm not
Yeah.
meaning it in a negative way or trying to whatever, but when he got to the super mini, it's like, man, like he's banging bars now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
everybody's-
Like these kids will take him out if they need to take him
Yeah.
out. Where the 65s, it's not like that. And it's like, and we kind of got a shock as a parent. We're like, whoa, our baby's growing up. Like it was scary to watch him out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like when he went to the line, like he was literally like puking. I'm like, what's your deal, man? Like you never, and it was because of super mini class,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And but then you watch. I mean, all those kids are fast in that super mini class in arena cross. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's no.
Well,
Right from
that's-
first to ninth, like they're
Yeah.
10th or whatever, like they're all
that's
fast.
an age where you start, forgetting the fear and starting to want to do better in your progression level, and everybody starts to kind of balance out on their progression level.
They
right?
do start balancing
Yeah.
out, yeah, and yeah, they start to figure it out. Where like the 65, and that's, I mean, I'm not slamming anybody or anything, but the 65 and the 50 stage, you still got kids that are like, up there like elite, and then you got kids that are like it's their second or third race, like,
Yeah.
and they're racing
Yeah.
at the same time.
And that's
Do you
kinda
know
the
what I
age
mean?
where they're just start getting into dirt bikes.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. So you got a different, like I say, and I wasn't meaning it in a
Yeah, yeah,
whatever
I
way. It
understand.
probably came out bad, but like you say, and even 85, you kind of get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But when you get to that super mini, like that was our first time racing super mini, like in a real super mini race, like, you know what I mean? It was like, it was a little bit of a shock, right?
Yeah.
And you're seeing, Dexter up there, and you're like, man, like you say, these kids they're banging bars, like
Yeah.
and they're all fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's almost the class where like the families really start taking it seriously too. Like I remember when I was racing like mini bikes, that was my first brand new bike, was like a
Yeah.
big wheel.
Yeah, CRF
Yeah.
150.
Yeah, that was
I
my
remember
first
at the
brand new
Lethbridge
bike.
Arena
That's-
Cross. I had to fix your bike for you if I remember right.
But that's like when people start taking it seriously, almost, is like
Yeah.
is like the 85 class.
They do take
Yeah.
it serious, but it's almost like it becomes almost a little bit funner too as a parent as I'm growing through it. The parents, I think they take it more serious, but they take it in a I don't know, like more mature, serious way. Like you're not bickering at each other, and like the 50 stage and even the 65 stage, it's like there's drama behind it. We've always said it, 50 parents. Like it's, trust me, I've lived through it. It's just a different, and then I think as the kids mature, I think the parents are too, naturally, like we are. And now it's like, you're not bickering over small things or fighting. Like I don't even know when the last time I seen a family like in Dexter's, like in the 85 or super mini class, really fighting anymore. I guess they still argue. I don't know, but it's not as much as like the 50s. It was like every race there was some kind of like something was going on, right? Where 85, it's like now it's kind of almost boring as a parent. You're like, where's all the drama? Everyone's so a little more chill, right?
You graduated out of elementary.
Yeah. But no, it's good though. But it is fun to watch these kids grow up and how fast they are, for sure.
Oh yeah. We're doing good.
That's a good one.
Actually, I wanted to ask a quick question pertaining to Fox a little bit, because I know you're obviously kind of a part of the global thing a little bit to some extent, and so with the Geico team shutting down, and that was a pretty big operation for Fox and Shift, will that support to that team, will that kind of trickle down to maybe riders that are already supported by Shift, or are you guys looking through like for a new team to deal with?
That's honestly a question that's beyond me. Like that's we have a marketing crew in the US, like Austin Hoover and stuff, that looks after all that. And I talk to him every now and then, for sure. But I don't really pry the questions. I'm not a guy who's going to call up and what are we doing next, or whatever, because that's the last thing they want to hear, right? He's got enough on his plate. So I really don't know what our plan is for next year or what they're doing, because the Geico team is gone, so our Shift athletes are gone. That was our Shift guys, right? Yeah. So where they're moving that into, I'm sure they got a game plan. They don't. Yeah. I mean, Fox doesn't sleep, right? They're always wanting to be ahead of the game, right? So
I guess they're racing in a sense too.
Yeah, for sure.
Competitive,
but it's tough though, because it's been a tough year for everybody. We've gone through a lot too as a company, right? So with the racing, it's the budgets just aren't as aggressive as they used to be like years ago. So we as a company got to be smart too, right? And there's only so much that can, we can support and go out there. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably find out here in the next little while. We usually do find out pretty quick here. Before racing starts or whatever. Yeah. But I bet you right now, honestly, I guarantee that they're not even done right now. Like that's the stuff they're doing right now. You know what I mean? They'll be figuring out, because everybody's got to get suited in teams too, right? We're seeing some of these riders, like Christian Craig and Martin and stuff getting signed. And when you get signed to those, like to start racing, the clothing kind of goes with it on the most part, I was kind of interested to see what was going to happen with Malcolm there, if he could keep a 7 deal, and it looks like he is. Yeah. So it just depends. So we got to figure out, we're kind of last almost, because we got to figure out where these riders are going to end up, and then kind of go from there. And the Geico team was all 250F guys. When you get to the 450s, then it's more like they can pick their brands, or a little bit more elite, right? So, but yeah, we'll see. I haven't heard, to tell you the truth, so I can't give you any inside gossip, because I don't even know.
What about Triple Crown? Have you been?
I haven't talked to them either. I actually been meaning to reach out. I've been stuck in my own little world here right now, just trying to focus on Fox and trying to
tidy up.
Yeah, just it's been a crazy year with this COVID, and we're going through some not growing pains, just some pains in general with with product. We're low on product, and we're trying to supply the dealers. The dealers are busier than they've ever been. And like as a distributor, we're all in the same boat. Is we didn't have the product to supply what the dealers are the demand. Like no one knew this was going to happen, right? So we are so focused right now on trying to get our business. Like I can't even think of the racing's almost like, as much as that's my passion and I love it, but it's kind of almost a secondary right now. And I haven't even, since the series has ended, I haven't even I meant to actually even just reach out to Derek there at GDR to BS with him, because I haven't talked to him since the series ended. But I haven't talked to anybody about racing since it's ended, just because I've been so focused on the business aspect, and the dealers are our number one, right? Yeah. So that's just kind of where my mind's been. So I haven't talked to the Jetworks crew and what's happening there. they're smart guys. Trust me,
Mhm.
they'll do what they need to do to get a game plan going, and
Yep.
they'll be working on it. So
Yeah, it's never good when you hear crazy news like we heard about Rockstar pulling out, but I think, I mean, they've kind of had their shortcomings over the past few years, but they've always pulled through. So, and it's never easy when you have to deal with something like they're dealing with now with the pandemic. So, and they made it happen this year. So I'm sure one major sponsor pulling out, I'm sure they'll figure something out.
yeah, hopefully it opens the door for somebody else. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like usually when something bad happens, it in the long run something good usually comes out of it. But just depends how long that good takes to come,
Yeah.
right? We want it now because we don't want to see anything happen, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope they get it figured out, and I'm sure they will. Like I say,
Mhm.
of some level, we got to go racing, right? But
Yeah.
it's tough when you see Rockstar doing what they did, and if for Jetworks it could be tough for them, and hopefully they get it figured out. And then you see like the OTSF team, like that's man, that just
That
hits
sucks.
home. It hits home.
Mhm.
Like it's like we only have a few of these big teams like them and the Cowie team and the GDR Honda and KTM. Right now, one goes like. It's not like we have 15 of them and
You're
we're down to
like
14. We're
30% of
we're
your
4 down to 3 now,
Yeah.
right? It's not good. And yeah, it was sad to see. I was hoping that they would maybe pull another sponsor out, or I don't know what happened there, like
Mhm.
exactly if they just couldn't find another sponsor, or why exactly it's what happened. But I'm guessing that's what happened. But it sucks. It's really sad to see, right? So hopefully, but hopefully it opens up the door for somebody else to start another Yamaha team or whatever it takes. and-
That's what we gotta like hope for and work towards is somebody else, some way, somebody will step up.
Yeah.
Will it be this year? Maybe not, but maybe next year somebody does, and maybe
Yep.
it's a better program.
Maybe I should have poked
a bad program.
I
But
should have poked Jason Mitchell, maybe Dean a little harder. Maybe it's time for them to come back, right?
Yeah.
You know what they
Uh,
did when they ran a team, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but the thing with Jason is he's all in if he's in. So I think
Yeah.
he's past that in his career.
Yeah.
Maybe Dean. Dean's still young. Can't we go?
Yeah.
We better go
I'm,
give
I'm working on
Dean.
it.
We're coming. We're coming to talk to
Yeah.
you.
I'm sure him and Brent Carlson could put something magical together, but
Yeah. No, it's
who knows?
yeah. I hope we. I want to see things turn around and yeah. And I'm glad what Jetworks was what they could do this year. Like, you see a lot of social media and even talking to people, it's like, not in the West. Like there's a lot of complaints, you know what I mean? But I've seen behind the scenes what those guys had to do to do what they did. Same with Walton, you know what I mean? There's when you see the tears on the camera, like those are real tears. Like those guys put their heart and soul
Yeah.
into
Mhm.
to making it happen, right? And good for Brett and Mel and like all of them. There's a whole crew like Goldie that they're all behind it, the Thompsons, like they're just, if we didn't have those guys in our sport, it'd be a world of hurt right now. You know what I mean? So I'm just glad that even us as Fox, that we can be a little part of it and try to help them where we can. There's only so much we can do too, but we try to back those guys as much as we can, and it's fun to work with them. It's good to talk to them, and those guys, yeah, like I say, it's they put a lot into it this year, so we better be thankful we got what we got.
Well, and for the circumstances we were given too, like racing in Canada is hard enough with money. There's not a lot of it to go around, and what does is in a small pool. And then this year even tighten that up even more. But I haven't gotten to go to a full series like I did this year, but it was pretty impressive that they still were able to put on a professional racing event every weekend, put it on TV, and it really didn't seem like there was that many hiccups.
No.
For all the things that could have gone wrong. They could have gotten shut down the day before a race because a health guy came by. They could have, but anytime something happened, they either stepped up or they already had a plan in place to.
Yeah, even if they had to move it to a different track or whatever they did.
That was like the biggest hiccup, and it never skipped a beat. They
Yeah.
called everybody, said, "Turn around, come back to Sandalye."
Yeah. Well, they were even like because I was out there at the time, but yeah, they were even like kind of going to the truck drivers, being like, you might like just hold off because they usually leave right after on whatever it's Sunday or whatever. It's like just stay put for a bit, So you kind of knew something was maybe happening, but they still, until they figured it out, they didn't really you know,
Yeah.
they like you say, they didn't
Mhm.
skip a beat.
Yeah.
And even as small as Back to this Future West, you know what I mean? Even them, like, honestly, you were there the last couple of weeks. Like, I think Lockhart might be a little bit grumpier than what he normally is because he's stressed out. But man, they're doing a great job. Like, they're you don't feel like this, you know, like, and it was cold, so I think everybody didn't mind wearing masks. It kind of kept you warmer outside. At least it did for me.
Yeah.
But you don't even notice it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of go with the flow, and you almost forget about what's happening in this world when you're there racing. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I like about it, is it just, it kind of shuts everything off, and you're there for the passion that you're there for.
Mhm.
And Future West they're doing a great job at that arena cross. Like, it's not skipping a beat. Like, it's not, you know, the odd time you go into the barn and a lady's like, hey, turns you around because you're not supposed to be in there, and you're like, okay. So then you
Yeah.
sneak around to the open shop door so you can watch or whatever. But you
Yeah.
still get to watch. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we still got to see like all the action and stuff.
Uh,
So it's great what they're doing.
I can't remember what you guys probably talked about it before. Was the turnout pretty good, rider wise, for the arena cross? this
Yeah, it
weekend?
was. Yeah, like I say, they had just shy of 300,
Oh yeah.
and I
wow.
think I don't want to totally quote me on this, but I thought someone said they're normally around like that 250 to 270. So it's actually
No.
it was a good like a
Awesome.
good turnout. Yeah.
It seemed like there was a ton of people from Alberta too, which was cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of Albertans. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of new Albertans because we've been going out there for, you know, a few years now, right? Because Dex loves that indoor stuff, right? So, but new families like that I didn't even know was gonna be there. Like, you pull up and you're like, hey, like, that's cool that you guys,
Yeah.
and they're all in, they're doing it, right? And
Yeah.
a couple of little Dexter's buddies that are racing in his class, like, and they're doing good too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like a couple of them just started racing and they're out there banging bars too. I'm like, man, like it's awesome to watch.
Nice.
Yeah, like it's really good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's a fun series. I guess I'll have to go back. I don't know.
We'll get you there.
Well, taking things outside of moto for a half a second here. Like, what is some of your favorite things to do not motocross related? Like, you talked your kids snowboarding and stuff. What do you do to keep
For me,
things fresh?
for me personally, it's my family. You know, that's you guys will see when you have kids and a wife. That's everything's dedicated to them, right?
Yeah.
But we have fun. I you know, love my family, of course I do. But Dex is a ton of fun. Jack's still like, she can do anything we do. She's not a mom who, you know, who sits
down.
at home or whatever, right?
Yeah.
She's a better snowboarder than me. She's a better water skier than me. Like,
Yeah.
she's good like at everything she does too, right? So so it's fun. We have, you know, we're a fun family. And like I say, we try to do whatever we can. If it's, you know, Dexter's at Beeline tonight, and we don't sit around. Like, our you know, our house is, it's not too often we're sitting in our house. It's we're go. So yeah, snowboarding, Beeline. We find everything we can do. You know, we were at COP not too long ago, carting down the
Oh yeah.
you know, the cart luges and you know, whatever we can find, we're always up to something. And
When you guys go down to California to train and stuff, or Texas or wherever you go, are you guys pretty much just to the track, home, gear, bike?
No,
the
we're
track?
totally opposite of that, actually, because we're lucky enough. Like, so my wife grew up water skiing. She's a very competitive water skier. So we kind of have almost two sides of the family that people don't see. Everyone thinks we're just moto, but we have the lake too, and we spend a lot of time on the lake. And Jackie's parents had a place on a lake down in Palm Springs, and where we used to stay. So it was like a fight every day. It's like, okay, like, do we go to the track or do we stay in water ski, right? You know, tough life, I guess. But so we time the weather and see what it is. As Dexter got older, it was harder because he was always wanting to be at the track now, unless it was really hot out and nice out. But yeah, no, we in California it was like kind of half and half, you know. And at Christmas time it was all moto. Like, it was because it was you could still water ski, but it wasn't like you did it just to say you water skied on Christmas Day. I always skied water ski like on Christmas just to say I did it.
Yeah.
It was damn cold. Like, it wasn't fun at all, right? So when we do our Christmas break down there, it was full moto. But when we go, typically we go this time of the year. Like, we're usually down there right about now. I think like Dexter raced Vegas. I think it's about almost a year ago now, right? That this time of the year, it's like mostly water skiing because it's like it's the nicest time usually. The wind's usually calm and it's like plus 35. It's perfect, right? So yeah, we try to do a little bit of both when we went to
Cool.
California for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, and we do at home here too. Like that's one thing that's hard. It's getting harder and harder because Dexter keeps taking Walton more and more serious too, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's like it's cutting right into our that's like
The prime time.
the prime
Yeah.
time for lake time is when he thinks he should be training for Walton. So it's like it's getting tough, but it's all good.
Yeah, well, it's cool that he's focused on the racing aspect. At least a lot of kids would want to be out water skiing and doing all the other stuff. And,
He still
racing
does. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. He quickly gets his motos done so he can get back to the lake.
Right.
That kid lives in the water. Trust me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
But he's full of energy. I don't know where the kid doesn't stop. He stretches out a day. That's for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
this has been a good one.
It's a good one, yeah.
yeah. JC knows how to talk. That's for sure.
Ugh,
Perfect.
probably
keeps us
talking too much.
entertained.
We need to get it.
No, it's good.
Well,
Anything you learned from the 2020, just with this whole COVID pandemic
Yep.
and the whole thing?
I learned not to do it again. I can't do it again. It's and everybody's in the same. That's the way I look at it. Is it's not me. It's not like my life's bad. Trust me, my life is great. Everybody's in the same boat, but there's no playbook for what happened this year, and it's like it makes us stronger. That's the way I look at it. Is we all, but
Mhm.
I learned a lot, like more than I ever need to learn.
Yeah.
But it's things that the things you learn is things you don't ever want to happen again. But I
Yeah.
guess if it does, you're somewhat prepared. I guess.
Yeah.
We made some with work. It was some tough decisions we had to do. And wasn't even me, but Fox as a company had to make some big changes. And a lot of dealerships, a lot of all their distributors, like it was for a couple months there. It was like dealers were closed. Like it was like literally the light switch shut off.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like the worst thing we could ever go through. And then the only real upside is when it turned back on, it turned way back on.
Yeah.
So it'd be way worse if our industry was still like it was in April. Then we could be sitting here being a lot worse. Do you know what I mean? So I take the positives out of everything. I think we were just talking about it before this started. I'm not a news guy or I don't like negativity in my life, so I don't like watching the news. I don't like stressing about this COVID. I kind of live my own bubble in a good way or a bad way. But it's everybody's got to be safe out there, but we also got to live our life.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm learning right now is it's like, you only live once.
Yeah.
And if COVID's going to take me down, if that's what it is, that's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it could be
Yeah.
an accident on our, driving home.
Oh.
Like we don't know. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not a guy who gets worried about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
still try to live what I can. And I think most people are.
Yeah.
But, so personally, I've just learned to live life, you know what I mean? And try to enjoy every minute I got. Work, we've learned a lot, that's a whole nother thing, but it's made our company strong. The team we have is like unbelievably, like it made us close because we had to come close. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been fun that way, really getting to, and doing it different. Like, I don't know exactly for you guys if it's changed much, but like my life went from going every day to the office, to my office, and we have a team of about 20, right? And you're with the same group, 20, and you say hi, you have your morning coffee. Like everybody gets into a life routine, right?
Mhm.
Now I sit in front of a Zoom call, like, 24/7, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how many Zoom calls we get in a day, right? Like it's different. But again, starting to get used to it, and you just
Mhm.
take it for what it is and
Have you
make
guys
the
had
best
to
of it.
do any layoffs at?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We had quite a
Everybody
few.
has. It's
Yeah.
not anybody's fault. It's just the way it was.
No, and that's the good and bad about it is I guess the good about it is it's nobody's fault, but the bad thing about it is you almost wish it was somebody's fault.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Because
wish you had someone
if
to
you're
point the
a
finger
shitty
at or-
worker, then I don't mind
Out the door.
out the door. Like it's
Yeah.
cool. The hard thing is we had to lay off like good
Good people.
like literally like some of the best employees
Yeah.
there is, right?
Yeah.
But it's just it was it's the departments like of what you need to focus on, and we had to narrow down like what's important for our business right now, and some of the departments weren't, and it wasn't the people, it was more the department, and some good people got hurt or got laid off, which hurts everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it's it's hard on them, but it's hard as us too. Like even though I'm still working, it's man, I miss those people. It
Yeah.
made everything a lot harder, right?
For
But
Yeah.
it makes you stronger, and I've learned a lot. This last year I've learned the most I've ever learned I've been doing this for I don't know, whatever, 25 years I guess I've been in this industry or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe even longer. I don't want to age myself here, but I've learned more this year than I ever have. So
Yeah.
which is cool. I always like to learn. So
I think everyone has.
yeah,
I think like most people have learned that they've got to see the good in things, right? Like if you just look at the news and you see all the COVID cases and the COVID deaths and like the Trump and Biden thing and everyone's gonna die or whatever, it's like,
no,
well, that's what the news makes
Yeah,
it seem
it's
like,
true.
right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, the
Yeah.
world's gonna end if either of them get voted in, right? You just have to look at the good.
Yeah.
And you like if you just listen to that and you get into this like cynical mindset, it trickles down to everything in your life, right?
Yeah.
You kind of start, seeing the worst in people, and you start reading things the wrong way, and you just have to look at the good.
100%. I'm with you all the way. Like I say, and there's a lot in this world that, you know what I mean? Like I just lost my dad to cancer. Like why aren't we talking about that every day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like trust
Right.
me, we lose a lot more. And I know it's a pandemic and we gotta, that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of other things happening
Yeah,
in
it's not
this
the
world.
only thing going
Like
on,
Yeah.
and it's just, even we're not seeing it in Canada. Thank goodness. I don't think we're seeing it in Canada. I don't see as much, but with all the riots and stuff going on in the States, like that's a whole nother, like, it's just like, yeah, it's crazy times right now. Right. And we're just lucky we got dirt bikes to have our outlet.
Yeah.
Cause that's what makes me happy. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back to Chilliwack next year, even though I'm not a racer anymore. Actually, I might race.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might.
Nice. You should.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking
Flat
about
out vet master.
it. I don't know.
Give Nuke
Maybe
a run
plus
for his
40.
money?
I don't know. Hoyer and Lockhart, those two are fast. I got a sandbag. Maybe see if they'll let me go in the 50-60 class.
Yeah.
There you go.
But even as a dad, that's what I look forward to. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just my life, and I think we're all the same way. We're all racers, and when I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, I got work. I love work. I do what I do, but really, it's like I'm looking forward to like, okay, we're going racing next weekend, or when's the Supercross series start? When I seen that yesterday, I'm like, when can I sit on my Saturday nights or now Tuesday nights, right, and watch that's what gives us drive in life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I'm always looking forward to that. I'm always looking forward to Chilliwack next weekend, and looking for the positives and everything. And that's our outlet. That's why we love dirt bikes, I think, so much. And I think if other families, not to get back into what we're talking about, but if families seen that and how much it is, like, that's what keeps us, that's what makes us like this sport so good.
It's a huge family sport. Like,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
really
that's,
is.
I tell that all the time. I have people ask me like, man, like, how do you, like, anybody outside the industry, they watch, like Jackie's Facebook or whatever, or follow Dexter on Instagram. It's like, you guys, like, how do you let your kid do this? Like, really, like, are you guys like how do you do it? And they don't get it. Like, they don't get it. But I try to explain to them, like, this year was a little bit tough year because of the COVID, but last year we spent 5 weekends in our house at home.
Yeah.
5 weekends. The rest of the time was in our motorhome at a race somewhere. And I said to them, like, when's the last time you spent every weekend with your family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like really, like
Mhm.
what? And that's what I love about it. Like, we drove to Walton this year, and like 40 some hours in a motorhome, right? But it's like, that's gonna be the memories. Like, I guarantee Dexter, it's memories I have, I know,
Yeah.
but Dexter's gonna remember. Like, the kid doesn't sleep, so he knows. Like, he can tell you every city, every province. He can tell you the lakes we stopped at, but that's the good times you have, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this sport is it's not just the racing. It's like, he can't wait to get to Walton to see his Eastern buddies, right? He's got like some really close friends over there that he races against, and he gets to see them once a year. Like,
It's cool.
that's why he likes to go to Walton, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what's cool about this sport. And we're just talking about this too, not to get off on something else, but it's funny because you travel all over the States to different races, and we can go to a race that we've never been to, and all of a sudden you see Dexter like talking to a kid, and they're all of a sudden they're like best friends, right? They're like, oh, you met a new buddy? No, that's Max or whatever. I'm like, oh, how do you know Max? Oh, he's from Instagram. Like, they're like friends before they've even met each other.
Yeah.
But because they follow each other, they you know, they know everything about each other, and it's
Yeah.
like as soon as they meet each other, it's like they're there, and it's like where do you get that? You know what I mean? Like it's pretty cool to watch. Like
Yeah.
there's not a place that we go to where Dexter doesn't have friends within minutes that he's going to hang out
That's
with.
cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think that's my favorite part of the sport. There is the family sense of it, the friendships you gain out of it. Even with, like you gain the most unlikely friends out of it, just because you have that. I guess it's just that thing in common, motocross, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And it doesn't stop. Like even for you guys, like I, because I'm going through all the stages of life. I don't know what my next stage is, but
Have you hit
you know, as
your
a kid-
midlife crisis yet?
yeah, I am.
Nice.
Yeah, hard. Yeah.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
On this podcast.
On this podcast, I need a hip replacement, Keelan. I'm like, shit's going downhill fast for me. No, but you see the kids they hang out right now. You see like your era, you know what I mean, where you guys are still close friends, and you guys will always be close friends. Like I still talk to Bart all the time. I still, like you still stay friends with your moto buddies forever, right? You know, like, we talk like Brad Hatt. You know, I grew up racing with him, and now he's a dad who's got a kid. You know what I mean? Like, man, we were good friends when we were racing at 17, 18. Now it's cool that we're doing it as dads. You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't matter what age you're at. Like our close friends that we talk to all the time, like they're our moto friends. You know what I mean? Like like even for Jackie and I, our friends, like when we have a party, it's moto friends, most like 90% of them, right? You know what I mean? Like that's so it doesn't ever leave you. You know what I mean? It's as long as, like I say, we're fortunate enough that we have a son that got back into the sport or whatever. I don't know if if I wasn't in it, but yeah, it's definitely cool that way. Like it's you guys will always be friends for the rest of your life because of this sport, for sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you do.
All my friends are moto friends. Sorry. All my friends are moto friends. Like everyone I still stay in contact with is I've met through moto.
Yeah.
It's like it builds this strong sense of community that I don't know. It's like nothing else, really.
Like nothing else. And we're a different nature too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when Dexter goes to school, like trust me, I guarantee he's the odd one out. Like for sure he is.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I mean?
felt like that
I've
when I
never
was a
been to
kid
his
too.
class, so I don't know, but I'm sure he's probably the odd one out. You know what I mean? Because they probably just look at him like you are an absolute retard, right?
Yeah. Well, it's hard too when you leave school you go down to California or you go racing and you come back and everyone's like, "Where'd you go?" And you're like, "Oh, do you want to tell them about this motocross thing you did?" And then you're like, no one understands it, right?
Yeah. It was cool last year. Dexter had a teacher that her husband used to race dirt bikes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was like one of the teachers that actually that got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she would like literally email us like in California, like when we're doing homework, and before even homework started, she's like, How'd you do? Like she was like
nice.
she was into it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And she'd tell the class like how Dexter's doing down there, right? But that was one teacher that we've had in 7 years. The rest are like
Yeah.
No idea.
they're
What are you
okay with it,
doing
like
with
they
your
get
life?
it, but it's like you got to explain like
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
because they just look at you like what do you, but I think they start to get it when they figure out like who he is and
Yeah.
and how much passion that a kid has for
That's right.
whatever sport it is, if it's hockey or whatever, right?
Well, and you talked about how he doesn't sleep on those road trips out east, right? Well, he's learning a lot as he's not sleeping, right? Like he may not be in school, but he's still learning stuff.
He could tell you every state we drive through to California. He could know like the mindset he's got from just doing road trips. It's like he
even time zone change.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids who no comprehension of time zone change. You tell them, Toronto's 2 hours different. What? Well, how's that? Why? I don't understand. Then you drive 40 hours and you realize, okay, here's why.
Yeah.
Because the sun will set if we don't.
It gives you a whole new perspective on the whole world because you get to see so much of it, right?
Yeah, and that's one thing I again back to if like I hope to get whatever, like I think you're asking like what get out of this industry or get out of this sport or whatever, but is that's what's cool too, is the travel. Like I hope and I don't keep meaning to go back to Dexter, but I'm using as an example because my kid or whatever, but I hope he gets like the opportunity to go do these like some of these races in Europe and like that, like
That'd
how
be cool.
like just that alone. Like I know like talking to Dylan right there when he got to go over and do a couple of those supercrosses, right? And man, like he's like, I want to go back in a minute, like and it's stuff that like that's what's cool. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
giving you the opportunity to be traveling around the world and stuff like that,
Yeah.
doing things like
Yeah.
that's why like Zach Osborne and those guys who got to do the GPs, like man, I look at him like I think he's had a wicked career. And then
Oh,
finishing
yeah.
it off the way I don't even know when he's done, but he's got to be getting somewhat close to the end of his career. But
Mm-hmm.
to take a racer, like he's a guy that I would have loved to. I'd love to be what he did.
Yeah.
You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
that's
Like I
the-
know
that's the dream.
a total
Yeah.
dream. I know a lot of people would be like, no way, I want to be like 21 and winning championships or whatever. And he's at what 30, I think, or something.
Yeah.
You know, and finally won a
30, yeah.
championship. But if you follow his life story of like traveling the GPs, traveling the like that guy's seen
Yeah.
everything, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that builds
he's-
character.
I guarantee you, I
Character.
bet you he could write a good book. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
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 So that's I think that's pretty cool. You know,
Mhm.
even Dean, like, you know, because we're all close to Dean or whatever, right? But I mean, that the world that guy's seen too, you know, coming from Scotland into here and then, you know, down the States and all
Yeah.
the travel he does with everything, with all the
Yeah.
MX, you know, the nations and stuff like that. And
It's cool.
now he's getting married in a week and growing up.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad. We were just talking about it. He was in our wedding, like him and his sister were doing our like signing people in when you walk in and stuff,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Now
Yeah.
he's getting married here in a couple of weeks, so that's how old I am. Yeah, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah. That's good. Oh,
I got nothing else.
no,
It's been good.
That's a
no.
good one.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no,
No,
thank you
no
guys.
editing like you said there was gonna be.
What's
Yeah.
that, sorry?
No editing like you said there was gonna be.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see, eh?
No
you
editing. I'm
watch it.
putting her up
No.
as is. We were
Yeah.
live the whole
My-
time.
my-
That was
It's
pretty
my
good.
first podcast. I can tell you
Oh,
that.
there
It's
you go.
fun.
Ours too.
It's a lot
Yeah.
funner than you think.
Yeah, you know what? It has been fun. It's good to listen to everybody and let me speak or whatever. But it's same thing when we do, you know, like whatever you go to places and you do different speeches or whatever you do. It's like it's fun. You kind of like trying to think like on the way here. I'm like, oh, I wonder how this is gonna go. But it's like anything. As soon as you start talking in a mic, it just
Comes
it
out.
It just comes out.
It's
So
like when
it's
you
been
get on
fun.
the track,
Pretty
you
easy.
kind of just focus in and you know what to do, right?
Yeah.
You
No,
might
it's
be,
good.
Oh, what gear am I gonna hit that jump in? Oh, can I hit?
No
As
idea what
soon as
gear
you
you're
get out
in.
there, you do it.
No idea.
Yeah. No, I don't know what gear. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it when new riders ask you that. Yeah. What
Yeah.
gear do you hit that in? I don't know.
I used to shift down to first gear in every turn just to know what gear I'm in before I hit the jump. When I was on 60s. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, the days
Yeah.
of counting gears.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Count.
oh, yeah, long ago.
Now, you know, especially bikes like Keelan's Factory 450, there you just leave it in one gear and
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I bet
Well,
you
the
didn't even make a
electric
He, doesn't,
shift.
he only has one gear.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Although
bother
I
me.
got to give him credit though, he's pulling out a quad this week that nobody was. It was
Oh.
pretty
Yeah, I
impressive.
seen that. It looked cool.
It was big.
Yeah, I was bummed out that nobody could get that triple into the rhythm, and I don't know, I want to do something cool. So
Yeah, no, it was. I was actually I got. You probably don't even know it, but I got it on camera because it was the first day you hit it. Everyone thought it was the second day you started hitting it,
oh really?
but it's the first day. It was like I think it was in one of your last qualifiers or something. But
yeah.
I just happened to be recording and as he went around, he hit it. I'm like, did I just see that right? And I had to go back to my phone and watch to see if he actually quad it because you know when you're
Yeah.
recording and you're
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
at the same time, you're not like.
You gotta pause it. 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. That's 4. Yeah, that was 4.
Yeah, and I
that-
think you only
was-
did it like once or twice that race, and then the main event came and you pulled it out like. Well, the first night you pulled out about half of the race.
Yeah.
Before it
Was
started
that
getting
in the
chewed
East
up.
Barn area? Like the far side of the
Yeah.
barn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen
Yeah,
that.
not the main barn or whatever.
Yeah,
But
But it
yeah,
was-
no, the track's been it was a little better the second weekend, so I mean, hopefully they step it up for the next 2 weekends.
yeah, I think they will. I think that talking to Beat, 'cause I was helping him groom the track a bit there. He didn't have a cat the first weekend, right?
Oh yeah, that was right. Cause I
Yeah.
remember I showed up to the track, I think late Thursday night for Friday practice, and all the lights were off inside the barn, but I wanted to take a peek in and see if I could see some of the track at all, and I was like, I don't even think it's built yet. Like looking through the window, I didn't
Everything's so-
see. Yeah, everything was so low. It didn't even seem like the track was built.
Yeah. No, it was. Just the way. But now he's got a cat in there or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's what happened the first weekend, and I think they're trying to make it pretty safe too, so they're not carting people out of there or whatever. It
Mhm.
actually they did a good job that way because
Yeah,
not too many people got
yeah,
hurt, and it was
yeah.
smart. Like what they did, as a racer, of course, we want a more technical track and it's
Yeah.
funner and whatever. But what they did was smart. But the second weekend looked fun. That's what that's why I want to race next weekend. Because I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, man, it looked fun. Like it looked like a
Yeah.
fun track to ride.
Yeah. No, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
They always do a good job. Like
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
never heard anyone say anything bad about the Future West series. Like
Never.
I've only done a couple of races, but every time it's been awesome.
No, it's been good. Beats does such a good job.
And it's the
building the
perfect
tracks.
like
Perfect
for it.
facility. Yeah, yeah. It's a mixture of everything. Like Kyle's always built the track in there for for quite a few years or whatever. So he does an awesome job. The dirt's good.
Mhm.
Like got slippery there a little bit the first,
Oh yeah.
but
yeah.
it's still all in all. It's
Well, just that one day because it was like pretty windy and all the windows
there's nothing you-
doors were open and everything was just.
there's
drying
nothing you
out.
can do. And he like I was talking to Kyle. He soaked the track. Like he said, it was like literally a lake the night before, and it just dried out
yeah.
that fast, right? But it's good dirt, good facility, good track, and then you got to give Future West credit. They got good staff in there. Like
Mhm,
Lockhart's on it. He's like, man, like how he is with racing. He's even more when it comes to running that place. Like it's like
Yeah.
he was giving me trouble because I was taking too long grooming the track between.
Oh, yeah.
And he's first moto, so of course he's sitting on the start line yelling at Beats and I to get off, right? But him and all the girls, working that, like they're on it. They're on it.
Yeah.
Like even Christine Gibbs sitting on the start line, like it's like
Oh yeah, she.
Yeah.
Was,
but
she
as
was a
much as
tyrant.
she's
Oh,
awesome
yeah.
though. But you don't mess around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Don't come up to the gate early. You're like
Yeah.
you're gonna hear it, right? But that's what you need, and they're it's been an awesome couple weeks. They're
Mhm.
doing a good job for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's our 1 year anniversary podcast.
Is
That's
it?
It is.
You guys?
1 year.
Oh, it's
There
on
you
1
go.
year, eh? Well, congrats, you guys.
1 year of
The troubles.
not much. Yeah. and
12
audio
episodes,
troubles.
13 episodes or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Hopefully, this one doesn't flunk you guys down.
Uh,
No, it's going to be good. We're going to try and ramp things up a little bit, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Try some new things.
Yeah, we were. I don't want to get into too much, but Keelan and I were talking about that, and you guys got some good ideas happening. So we'll. Yeah.
We'll improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
We'll
good
get
for
there.
you.
we've come a long way, honestly.
yeah.
Like,
They're fun.
yeah.
And you know what? And listening to you guys, or I look forward to. I was asking about Cody there. I was asking one of you guys. I'm like, how was Cody's? Because I knew you guys are doing one with Cody Matichak,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, we're doing it next week or whatever. Because I was looking forward to that one, because, but I'm like, why haven't I? And I was even thinking about it today. I'm like, why haven't I watched or listened to Cody's yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then now it makes sense. That you
Yeah.
guys,
We-
I knew
next
it was
week.
coming, right?
Coming next week, Cody.
Yeah,
Matichak.
that'll be a
Yeah.
fun one. He's
Yeah. He'll be good.
he's got some stories for you for sure. But yeah, I know it's great listening to you guys, and I hope it keeps growing, and
Yeah.
and podcasts are growing, right? It's
Yeah.
you don't even listen to music really anymore when you drive to a race now. It's
Yeah.
you listen to podcasts.
You,
That's
you, you put music on to get a little break from the podcast.
Yeah.
it. yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no, it's good for you guys, and it's congrats on the 1 year, and I'm glad you guys did it. Like all three of you. It's hats off to you guys for. It takes a lot to do it. It's not.
Yeah. No, it's funny because we were talking about it not all that long ago when we first had the idea. I thought it'd be pretty simple, just like, yeah, we'll get a couple mics and whatever, see how it goes. And now it's like turned into a full operation.
Oh yeah,
And
and a moving operation. I was watching there
Yeah.
in Walton and
Oh.
setting up
Oh,
things.
yeah. The mobile operation.
Yeah.
We got to simplify things a little bit, I
Yeah,
think.
we got to figure it out a bit. Yeah.
I
We're
what I
getting
love
there.
about the best of it is you, Jared, because it's like you're the last person I think that would unless you get a couple drinks in you, then it's
Well,
like,
that's kind of why I wanted to do it, right? Because everyone like has this image of me as being this like quiet, shy guy, but like when I'm at the races, I'm kind of like all business. Like, I don't know.
well, you just got your day to day.
Like your-
Yeah,
yeah,
like
you
I work a
focus.
full time job, right? Like I'm
I'm
kind of like don't have much energy to go and socialize all the time, so it's kind of like this is a nice outlet for me. I don't feel like Instagram or whatever. I don't have Facebook, but I don't feel like social media is a great outlet for me to like express myself. So
Yeah,
this is like
I
a great
agree.
way to like kind of get my thoughts across and stuff.
No,
like that.
I think it's awesome for you, and I think it's yeah, it's funny because people say that it's like, oh, Jared's so, and like you ask us, it's like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think we were at one of the races or whatever after, and you had a couple of drinks and you let loose, and you're talking to some of the parents, right? And they're like, it's like he wouldn't stop talking. He's awesome to listen to or whatever. Like that's the way Jared always is. They're like,
yeah.
no, he never talks. We're like, but we know you in a different way. where
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, I kind of
right.
got frustrated with that kind of people putting that image on me because I don't know. It's hard to. I feel like it's hard to express yourself in a like. I feel like if I don't have something to say, I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah,
And it's like when you're making small talk, it's kind of hard to just get your thoughts across. So
No, good for you. No, I think it's great. Yeah.
Well,
wrap her up.
yeah. Thanks again,
Yeah,
JC.
thanks,
Yeah,
JC, for
thank you
coming in.
guys.
Yeah, some
Yeah,
good
we'll,
insight there. We'll
Good
be back
times.
next week.
Next
Yeah,
week, we'll be back next week with Cody Manchuk.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. We'll see who's more entertaining.
I don't know. I thought you had some good insight here. I was entertained.
Pressure's on.
That was
Cody.
good. Yeah.
No, good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.